What's up, guys? Sorry about that. StreamYard's being glitchy tonight when it comes to intros and outros. Hey, Miss Aria, Miss Debbie, Miss Nina. What I want to talk about tonight is going to be an open topics live when it comes to the true crime cases going on. So, whatever you guys want to talk about, I'll talk about, basically like a Q&A type session. And I'm hoping we're going to be having a special guest tonight. I just got to send her the link. So, how's everyone's day today going so far? I tell you, hey, Maven. So, what kind of cases are you covering, Maven, so far? I know you're covering the Karen Reed case. I'm going to be getting into covering the serial killer case there in Gilgo Beach. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull up an article about it. New details were revealed in the Gilgo Beach serial killings. Newsweek's live blog has ended. Attorney John Ray said that the hairs connected to Victoria Heuermann are not necessarily transferred by Rex Heuermann during the murders, as the district attorney has claimed. He has no way of knowing that for a certain, Ray said, considering that you see what you know that might tip the card a little bit. Ray also pointed to language on Rex Heuermann's detailed planning notes for a Microsoft Word document that says supplies to carry out a serial murder included the need of a hairnet. We do not know how far their connections reach. Ray said it opens up this door. Ray said that the police at the district attorney's office are missing key points to their charges. These people didn't tell the truth. Ray said they're misleading us. So, could it be possibly Rex Heuermann's daughter getting arrested next for their murders? That would be something. A father-daughter serial killer duo. And let's get into this one.
Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and there was a press conference today. Attorney John Ray's attorney for the Shannon Gilbert family came out and he presented a whole bunch of very interesting photos, shall we say, well, artwork that supposedly was connected, allegedly. I'll say allegedly here because I don't have myself personal proof, but he is an attorney. He's gone public with this in a major press conference. I would think that he put effort into determining that what he is claiming are as a Tumblr account connected to Victoria Herman, that it really is. If he's going to do that, because if she's not actually connected to that account, and all the artwork that he's showing that he says she put on that account, if he's incorrect, then she will sue the hell out of him, because what he is inferring is that Victoria, be involved with her father Rex in serial homicides. That's a pretty horrific thing to go public with. And so what do I think at this point as a profiler about a possible tag team of father-daughter? There are some who even believe that the whole family was involved, or at least his wife had to know what was going on. Supposedly, his wife was out of town, a family was out of town when the murders he's known to have committed went down. And therefore, they were not involved, and that he was careful. He was a solo serial killer who chose to commit his crimes when he had the time to do it. Now, this is this happens quite often with serial killers who are married. The majority of the time, their wives do not know. They have a separate place where they commit their crimes, and they make sure that the wife is not around at the time, so that they can do what they want to do. They don't want witnesses. They want to be able to continue what they're doing. It's their hobby. They don't want to get caught doing their hobby, because then their hobby ends, because they're going to be in prison. So they make sure that hubby doesn't know. And oftentimes when they are finally arrested, if they get arrested, the wife is shocked because she can't believe it, that this could be true. In many cases, they're like, there's no way my husband would do these things. And one of the things that a serial killer who is married will do, have to understand how they work this out. There was a serial killer named Bartolome, and he was dating this girl. Well, this is how it started out. On their first date, she says, he showed me his license, and he said, "Look at this." And she said, "What about it?" And he goes, "I made it." And then she says, on our second date, and you wonder, why the heck are you on a second date with this creep? Not this creep, but the Bartolome creep. Why are you going out with this guy again? She was a teacher, and she was going out with a guy who counterfeited his license, or at least claimed to. That's not a guy you want to continue a relationship with. But no, she went out again. And then he pulled out a bill and said, "Look at this." And she said, "What about it?" He goes, "I made this too." And then she says, on our third date, and at that point you go, okay, this is how this kind of guy finds a wife. He finds a very gullible human being. He's probably met many women who won't put up with stuff like that, who will question him and go and run away. But when he finds the type of woman who will go along with the program, he's got the wife he wants. He knows he can manipulate her and fool her and get away with what he wants to get away with without her asking too many questions about that locked room. What's going on in the basement? What's happening in the shed? Why do I keep being sent away for 3 days? She'll like go along with the program because she thinks he gives good reasons, and he's used to manipulating. So I don't know that his wife knew what he was doing if he is found guilty of the crimes which he is alleged to have done. He hasn't been convicted yet, so I have to say alleged. Now,
hello, Miss Kiki.
Hi, Robert. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. This is a profiler who's doing the Gilgo Beach serial killer case. could quite possibly be his daughter was his accomplice.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy because I got that feeling. I didn't want to say it though. You hate to name somebody who hasn't been named as involved.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's why her picture is up there too, is because she is possibly his accomplice, but they're still investigating her.
have they actually said why they think that she's involved yet?
Well, I have an article about it right here. I can pull up real quick.
I love you.
Okay, right here. It says we don't know how far there is connections reach. Said it's open. It opens up this door. Ray said that the police and the district attorney's office are missing key points to their charges. These people didn't tell us the truth. Ray said they're misleading us. This is 12:18 Eastern Daylight Time. Why Victoria Heuermann would become involved. Dr. Gary Brucato said the reasons behind a person joining in with a serial killer alternate on a case by case basis. There is potential that Victoria Heuermann was just surrounded by the murders and thought nothing of it. Brucato called this normalization. That didn't happen out of just thin air, Attorney John Ray said, adding that Victoria's hairs are found on some of the dead bodies. She also could have suffered from Stockholm Syndrome. The disease is a reaction to developing a psychological bond to a captor or an abuser. The jury is out on what this is about and what this was about. Brucato said, Ray is not looking to sue the family. So some of her hair was found on the dead bodies.
I mean, I remember having the conversation when he first was arrested, and people were like, well, the reason why, do you hear that echo? People said, well, the reason why she doesn't know, or the reason why they didn't know, is because you would never think that a family member would ever do something like that. So, I mean, in our own normal minds, we would never picture somebody doing that. So I can see why you'd explain it away, but wow, we're just beginning to scratch the surface on all of the things he did and all of the properties and stuff. So I don't know, but I'm definitely open to hearing what the investigation has to say, because it is kind of outrageous that this person lived this whole life with his adult children and they had no inclination. But who are we to judge? Would we ever suspect a family member of doing something so atrocious? We probably wouldn't. I don't know. What do you think, Robert?
I mean, if her hair was found on the dead bodies, could that be explained away as if he's keeping the bodies there in the house or like in the basement or something like that? Yeah, yeah. Her her hair could have been in the house and it got on the bodies. But if if she was with him when he was killing these victims, then I'm starting to wonder exactly how her hair got on his bodies. Got on the bodies of the victims. The only thing I can think of is it goes back to Stockholm Syndrome. He could have been, he could have been abusing her, and it's Stockholm Syndrome. Basically, you start to do what your captor or abuser tells you to do. So maybe she was involved in the murders, but against her own will. Yeah, muted.
Or maybe she felt threatened, and this was a coping mechanism or survival mechanism. Oh, look, we got 12, the Maven, Christy. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for showing up.
Hey, 12 gauge. But yeah. And as far as my rant last night, I said what I had. I said what I had to say. Yeah, it's been eating at me for a long time. So, I said what I had to say in that rant last night.
Well, hold on. I'm streaming this live. Let me announce it to my channel.
Okay.
Robert, do you hear that echo when I talk? Because I'm not saying it to criticize you. I'm just wondering if you can hear it too. I'm going to put live. We'll do true crime talk with. Oh, I'll put true crime talk, and then I'm a guest on your channel. Okay, guest of true crime cult. Awesome.
Says major echo from swamp.
Okay, while you're muted, I'll tell them what's going on. Yeah, so Robert's got a very powerful microphone right now. So when I talk, it echoes off. We've been experimenting, and I haven't told you, Robert, but Jeff H has actually told us he'll work with us one-on-one to get that echo fixed. So just keep your eyes out. Jeff H says he'll make plans with us this weekend to get that straightened out. I emailed.
The Maven said, it starts and stops. It's more of a reverb than an echo. AR says, now it's perfect. AR, would you like to come up and join us for the true crime chat? We'd love to hear some of your the cases that you're following. But yeah, just the whole the whole Rex Heuermann case, which is just getting going. Now the Idaho 4 case is kind of, I mean, I can AR. Yeah, I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but it's kind of stagnant right now. I mean, there's nothing really new to talk about in the case.
Really?
That's why I'm kind of starting to steer away a little bit from Idaho 4. I mean, yes, I talked to some points of the case, but there's not going to be anything new until around the trial time. I mean, yes, we'll have the hearings like once a month or once every other month, but it's pretty much stagnant in the water until something new comes out. That's why I'm delving into the Rex Heuermann case. But it would be huge, Kiki, if it comes out that his daughter was a part of the murders and she's arrested, because why else would her hair be on the bodies? And if the bodies were not found in the home, if the bodies were like dumped somewhere, could she have helped him dump the bodies?
I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of another case where a child or a daughter of a serial killer was involved? And that's for the live chat too.
I think this would be the first case that I looked into that it would have a father-daughter dynamic. Probably not since the 60s or the 70s. AR, but yes, probably not since the 60s or 70s. Have you ever heard of a father-daughter serial killer team?
So you actually have heard of one in the 60s and the 70s?
Yeah, but it wasn't father-daughter. See, this goes back to the serial killer from the 70s and the 80s. His first name is Chris. I can't remember his last name. He would kidnap. He would abduct young girls, and then kill them. And then one of the girls that he had abducted, he actually grown kind of fond of, and uh, she helped him abduct a couple of girls before he actually released her. I can look his name up. It's been a minute since I've actually thought about the case. And AR says, yes, I actually spent time locked up with a guy and his son who teamed up in serial crimes. Weird thing is, the daughter was later arrested for dumping evidence.
And while you're reading comments, I wanted to point out that the Maven wrote at 9:22, if you want to pull it up, I can think of kidnapped victims helping with new victims. And that's right, Maven. I don't know if that's necessarily the Stockholm Syndrome that Robert was talking about, but I've heard of that too. Like young victims who've just, I guess there's no other term than maybe brainwashing, have been brainwashed and then later helped find another victim. So I forgot about that too. And that's really interesting, that comment that AR made. There's a few more too. Here, I'll mute myself so you can read them.
Okay, I think I told one of you about my friend in Atlanta whose sister went missing from a rest stop on 95 South towards Florida, never seen again in 1993, the weekend before we had my friends, her sister, in Base Park.
Wow, Glenda, I'm sorry for what you went through. And just reading that, did your friend's case went missing? Has she ever been seen again? Has there been an update? It looks like maybe she's still missing. I don't know, Robert, it'd be an interesting case to look into. My comments don't show up in Robert's chat. Maybe I have to.
I see one from Christy that's linked right there.
I'm gonna put it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this one is linked, and this one is linked, so I can see your comments in my chat.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go give a test one on my channel. Sorry for the technical glitch. Oh, my phone is like not letting me log on to the live stream. This is weird. Oh, here we go. Okay. Let me do a test comment, you guys, and see if it shows up. Okay. Oh, and I can click on it too. Wow. All right. Well, there we go.
The serial killer I was thinking about was Christopher Wilder. He would portray himself as a photographer, promising these young vulnerable teenage girls like contracts, and he would pay them $100 to for him to take photos of them, not nude photos, but like modeling type photos, and then he would give them the money. Then he would abduct them at gunpoint, and he would spend at least 2 to 3 days torturing them before he killed them. And one of the girls that he had abducted, he actually became fond of, and he tortured her for like 6 or 7 days, and then she helped him abduct a couple of other victims, and he ended up paying for her a plane ticket back to California while he drove towards Canada.
What an unbelievable story. Oh my gosh, it's petrifying. And you wonder, like, that person's a victim too. Like, where does the line of being the victim and the predator start and stop? There's an interesting comment from Glenda, kind of an update. We had asked if her friend was still missing, and she wrote that she had reached out last week, and her friend is now reported to the FBI. Her friend in Atlanta, but she's giving up hope, and she had only met her, on one occasion. Be interesting to see if we could, at least just put a community post about that up. So we all have emails, Sherry. It'd be nice if you have an article, or maybe we could look her up. That's how you got interested in missing people. And people are huge advantages. And I think that's one place where our platforms can definitely make a difference, for sure. That's so weird, Christy. I can see you're saying that you can only see my comments by jumping back and forth. I see the same thing. That's weird. Oh, well. Well, thank you for monitoring the chat on my side. I appreciate it.
She monitors it on my side too. Glenda said I would love to do that.
Making drink for the kids.
Are you there, Miss Kiki?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Tabby says, has anyone heard who the 16-year-old found deceased was in Tennessee?
No, but if you should pull it up, Robert. I'd like to know more about the case.
Okay, I'm dropping the link for AR.
Oh, good. I haven't been on piano with AR in a while. Like a week. So I see.
Yeah,
Oh,
reason why I'm quiet, I'm helping my daughter put a straw in her juice. There.
I'm making drink for the kids. For the 5 kids.
Well, I will check while you do that. So I'm just curious. I've heard so many different takes online about the Howard Bloom interview. I don't know. I would like to just take a kind of impromptu survey in the chat, nothing informal. If you're going to buy Howard Bloom's book, please put a 1 in the chat. If you're not going to buy it, put a number 2 in the chat. Let's just find out right now if you guys are interested in this part 2 of Idaho 4 fiction. Hi, Mikey. I can't click on the comments. Okay, so 12 is not going to buy the book. Tabby Cat, Glenda, and the Maven are all not going to buy the book. All right. I wasn't going to buy the book, but
I'm not going to buy the book.
But I think I'm going to buy it now. Because I feel like I need to be informed.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason. And I feel like some people don't want to read it. If you have
Cook Gage says going to borrow it from Twiz. Christy put a 1. There's a lot of 2s in the chat.
Hold on. I'm going to disappear for 1 second. I have to send a message to someone.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's going on? How are you guys?
I'm doing okay. She's muted because she's sending a message right now. But so what do you think? Have you looked into the Gilgo Beach serial killer case, brother?
No, that's not one that I've actually been following.
Which one have you been following, brother?
So the newest one I was watching today is the Rachel Morin case. They actually caught the suspect after looking for him for about 10 months. So they just arrested him, I believe, early today, based off of DNA evidence. So is it me that's echoing, or who's echoing?
I don't know. Yeah, let me turn down my mic volume.
Yeah, if Robert mutes his mic, it doesn't echo. Hi, AI.
Yeah, because I
Hey,
got
Swamp, how are you?
I got one of the good mics my wife brought me a while back. But yeah, I watched your video last night, AR, and I agree with you. There's really not much to talk about in the Idaho case because it's kind of stagnant right now. There's nothing new coming out.
Yeah, I mean, the Idaho court case is going to be pretty quiet for a while.
Yeah, because I mean we're gonna have like a hearing on this motion that that came out last week, and then we're gonna have a hearing on another motion and another It's like why are you all doing all these hearings on motions? Um, yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine last night. And he said he said if Kohberger hadn't waived his speedy trial, he probably would have got off. Because clearly the prosecution wasn't ready at the time. Now since he's waived his speedy trial, they have all the means to get ready and get everything they need to convict him. Yeah, even though I don't believe he did it, there's a part of me that don't believe he did it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the crazy part of it is that people need to understand is cases like this take a very, very long time to work their way through the actual system because of the fact they have to be so careful for the appeal process after the fact. Death penalty cases like this, if somebody's found guilty, even if you only get life without parole, you get so many appeal attempts and you could really legitimately appeal over any little thing. So they have to be careful. But I mean, if you really look at it, the state, how many times early on said that they were ready to go, and then all of a sudden they're backpedaling saying they're not ready to go. So it's both sides that are not fully prepared for this. So I mean, it's you can't blame one side or the other. It's both sides are just not ready, and that's typical in a case this large. So
Oh yeah, I know because even Ann Taylor has said this is a high profile case, and I've heard from a lot of different pundits that this case is like a case of the century almost. For there in Moscow, Idaho, because when was the last time in Moscow, Idaho, you had quadruple killings? Probably what 20 years, maybe, if that.
yeah, I'm not sure if they've ever had a quadruple homicide. I know of the one that Bill Thompson pled out. It was years ago, but it was a guy that killed a couple of people there on the college campus, and it was a death penalty case. And Bill Thompson pled that one out completely to life without parole, which that was a locked up, done did it case with a confession that he still pled it out to not have it go through the court system. So um, it's interesting that people are struggling to understand that, as much as we want to discuss this case and talk about the many different viewpoints of it, I mean, it's going to be in the works of this for quite a while. And I know that frustrates the victims' families. I get that. And it's frustrating to anybody that wants truth and ideas of what's going on. But this isn't something that could be sped up and just pushed through the system as quick as possible. So
You know, I know the Gonzalez family, they're wanting it sped up and pushed through, and it's just it's something that has to take time. I mean, what's your take on it, Kiki?
No, I totally agree. Justice takes time. This is what JLM said. We got that echo. But I agree with everything you guys are saying, and knowing that it takes some time, knowing that at least he's getting a fair defense, or the system is working correctly. And I just wanted to kind of give an update on the question that we asked before. So far I've counted, and out of the roughly 8 people that voted, it looks like 2 people are going to buy the book and 6 people are not going to buy the new book by Howard Bloom that's coming out. And there was an interesting line in the recent interview that we saw, where we saw that one of the problems that the author was pointing out is that the FBI and the Moscow Police Department wasn't working closely together. And I wonder if that's a product of recent events in the hearings that we've been watching, or if he's saying that from his own connections working on the ground. I mean, he did say it from the beginning, but I don't know. I guess I'm just tying in recent news with what we're talking about. And
well,
on this, I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't speak over you.
no, it's my fault. And I get exactly what you're saying, because we definitely want to pinpoint when do we feel like that relationship broke between the different agencies that were investigating this case. And I believe that there's always going to be a little bit of a muffled situation depending on who's got what part of the case, and are the feds going to really try it as a federal case, and they don't want the state to trample on their evidence and their witnesses. And I mean, I know I sat in a jail cell for 7.5 years fighting a case that didn't even involve a lost life. And it still took 7.5 years to battle in a courtroom. And it's because the different agencies that were involved could never get on the same page of who actually wanted to prosecute me and who was going to help the others. So I ended up beating the case after 7.5 years because they couldn't even get on the same page. So it could have happened with Brian Kohberger too, where the FBI just puts their hands up in the air and says, "The hell with you! I'm not giving you any of the information I have," and then the state's going to be left hanging. Which right now it kind of feels like that might be the case. It just might be happening.
Can I just ask you for clarification on one thing you just said? They held you without trial for 7.5 years?
Yeah, I never made it to trial in the case. They dropped the charges before trial. Yeah. I've known people that have sat in jail 15 years waiting to go to trial. There's certain states that have no time limit that they have to get you to trial in. Once you waive your speedy rights, it could take however long they deem, or however long your team fights things and motions for things. It could take a long time.
We have a question for you on screen, AR. I want to know about his perspective on the cross country trip, about what MK knew, Michael Kohberger.
I mean, I guess because of the newest information that Howard Bloom has put out, there's going to be a lot of questions, and people in their thought processes. What type of conversation was being had between father and son while driving across the country after a suspected quadruple homicide? And then, even to add to that, it seems like they both knew in their mind what had happened to Kapaka, because that was brought up during a traffic stop and mentioned. So, I'm not one that could put myself into how Brian Kohberger or his father would make that trip, because I don't know their personal relationship well enough. And I think it's very unfair for someone like a Bloom, or even a victim's family member, or an Ashley Banfield, or anybody of that nature, to begin specifying as if they know what would be happening in conversation or even back and forth between the two. I just don't think that, there's any fair way of making a statement. Do I feel like Brian Kohberger just outright came and told his father he had possibly, if he had done this, that he would have confessed to his dad on the road trip back? No, because I feel like his dad at the first gas station probably would have got out of the car and said, "The hell with this. I'm not going to continue this trip home." Um, there's just so much randomness in the things that come up, and I get it. It's about writing a book, and I could come on here and profess, what I'm going to do. I'm going to match this, and I'm going to write a book on the corruptness of the justice system and what I've endured as a person. And some people are going to love it and buy it, and other people are going to say, "Oh, he's full of it." You know what I mean? So um, I don't think Brian Kohberger and his father had any discussions of a quadruple homicide happening in Moscow, Idaho. I just don't believe that.
Neither do I. I don't believe that either, because he wouldn't have, like you said, he wouldn't have made that trek clear across country with him if he knew his son was involved in it, because yeah, there would have been like a stain on his floor mat. Oh, son, that looks like blood. Oh, I'm getting out of the car right now. Yeah, yeah. It's just so weird. They didn't find no trace of the victims at his parents' house, at his apartment, at his office, and then you have Brett Payne having to admit that his car wasn't picked up on any of those cameras where they said that his car was picked up at. Like there was no evidence of his car even being seen on camera leaving the area.
Right, right.
So I was gonna say, so could Brett Payne have been lying in in the PCA where it said that his car was spotted on camera leaving the area?
That's a good question, Robert. Real quick, I just want to. I think Glenda Hinshaw was making a comment towards me that she says you're not a convict then, because she asked me, did I sue in regards to sitting for 7.5 years and not making it to trial. I think you're a little mistaken there, Glenda, considering I served over 25 years in the penitentiary. And while I sat in that jail cell for 7.5 years, I was already convicted of both federal and state crimes. So I kind of take offense to someone saying I'm not a convict when, I mean, I've been around the block and I come out here and I just speak through experience. And if I let somebody know that I beat one case, that doesn't mean I beat them all. So I'm sorry, Robert. I didn't mean to cut you off, and I just wanted to just mention that it's luckily I beat one case, but I definitely didn't beat them all.
She says, "I love AR. That was a rough deal you had," and then she says, "I'm sorry." Right here, yeah.
No, it's good, and
I did not mean bad. I'm really sorry," she said.
No, and I didn't take it as bad. I just wanted to comment back and just kind of let people know.
But yeah, yeah, this whole case, not just this case, but the Delphi case, which I've seen what Richard Allen looks like now. He does not look anything like he did before they arrested him. It looks like he's being starved. He's not the same person he was before he went in. It looks like he's being mistreated while he's being held there in the prison, and it's sad to see that.
I definitely agree. I'm sure Kiki, you would too, right?
Yes. And I wrote a couple of things down while you guys are talking. Now, I don't know a ton about the Delphi case, but I do know a little bit about the condition of the person accused when he went in and he came out. I mean, you can see the obvious before and after pictures. And I think as someone who's just following the mainstream media narrative, somebody who hasn't really dove deep into the case, I've heard that there are some, obviously, if you're charged with such a serious crime, there may be mental health issues, but I've heard that there's mental health issues that aren't being addressed, and that's why his condition is deteriorating. But that's all I really know about that. I also wanted to go back to what you guys were saying when you were talking about Michael Kohberger and the cross-country trip between him and Brian, and I totally, completely agree. I don't think that there was conversation going on about if Brian was involved. He wasn't talking to his father about it during that trip. I mean, the only thing I'm basing that on is the mental the vibe that was given off his father during those 2 traffic stops, where I saw where a man who was, you know, leaning back in his seat, completely comfortable with his phone on his lap. It just doesn't look like somebody who's on edge, who just found out about something like that from their son. The other thing that I thought was interesting that you brought up is one of the reasons why we tie Kopaka to this event is because the one time where Kopaka was mentioned in this crime was from the mouth of Michael Kohberger. And so when the day that he was swatted was the same day that they were leaving Washington. So it's right from the mouth of Michael Kohberger that we make the connection to Kopaka. So I think that that's interesting. And I just want to remind everybody, which I brought up on my live stream the other night, some screenshots Mikey had sent me of a Fox News article where the original reports to Kopaka, don't forget, it seemed like there could be a connection to either BK or to the systems that were down at U of I, because the original report said Kopaka worked in the IT department at U of I. And then they amended them to say he was sort of like a janitor or something position at WASU. And then they amended that and took all of his working credentials off. And then the other thing I wanted to tie back to when you were talking about Michael Kohberger again and the drive back to Pennsylvania from Washington is we talked about Rex Huberman and his daughter. We talked about Stockholm Syndrome. We talked about, you know, maybe a victim who has been victimized and then involves himself in a crime because they're just perpetuating their own safety. But in this case, like, we don't expect our family members or any human to ever cross that line, that dark line. So people, their minds don't go there. They don't think that they couldn't imagine that the person they love has human nature to do that. So just like Rex Huberman's daughter, who would have no idea and maybe completely stupidly turn their eye to certain evidence, the same could be true in the case of Michael Kohberger. And sorry, I bogarted the mic for so long there, you guys. I'll mute myself.
No, it's awesome to hear exactly how you feel and your thoughts as well. I think that's why this is such a great team, is each of us all have a little bit of a different background and experience and a view that we could tie in with each other to really formulate a good picture from a roundabout way. And my experience is, if somebody wanted to know my opinion on what it would be like riding in a car for Brian Kohberger and his father, a 2,500-mile drive, if Brian Kohberger had committed this crime, and I'm not going to say he had, but it would be a very similar situation as to me riding in the car with my mother, knowing that I was actually on the run from federal charges, and my mom's just puttering along, to take us to go get some McDonald's and go pick up some clothes at the store. No idea she's sitting next to a guy that literally has 30 warrants for his arrest in 5 different states. How do I break that to my mother as we're puttering along? Hey, yeah, by the way, Mom, you might not want to stop if you see the lights go on behind us. Keep driving. I mean, I really just don't feel Brian would do that to his father, no matter what type of relationship they had, because it seems like his dad is a very down to earth, good hearted individual that worked at the school where his wife worked, and they raised their children to the best of their capabilities. Was it perfect? Probably not, but whose household ever is? My parents, my adopted parents, raised great children. They've got lawyers, they've got real estate agents, they've got great kids, and then they had me. So it's not that I'm a bad person. I just made really bad choices, and I don't think that falls back on the parents. So I don't feel as though Brian Kohberger would just be having a conversation with his dad. It just doesn't seem like one he would be having. I mean, it just doesn't.
I like
Yeah,
Jake's comment.
yeah. I think he would be having like, hey, how are you doing in college, or have you got a girlfriend yet, or he would be wanting to know what's going on in Brian's life. Not, hey, did you kill those four students in Idaho? Yeah, he wouldn't ask him anything like that. He would ask him how he's doing at college, where he sees himself in 5 years. Does he have a girlfriend? And where do you want to go to eat at? That's that's probably what the whole the 2,500 mile trip was probably his dad wanting to know how he's doing in college and if he has a girlfriend.
You're so
I
right, Robert.
agree.
You're so right. And also his job. I mean, if you think about it, the most serious topic that probably would have been going on in that car if he, wasn't involved in this would be what's going on with his PhD program right now, his teacher's assistant program and his PhD program. He was in some turmoil either way, and I don't know if he would hide that from his father, or if he'd want to talk about it. And AR, I'm sorry, I think I cut you off while you started talking.
No, you didn't. I was actually happy that you jumped in there. It just really comes down to, and I think it's very irresponsible on a person's. I guess when I look at Howard, I look at a guy. You're kind of in a position of power when it comes to people listening to you, reading your articles, reading your books. You have a voice that's more prominent than others out there. You've been doing this a very long time. So you have a following. You've got a respect factor. And to jump in this early, if you guys remember at all, remember James Patterson, the writer, stated he was going to be coming out with a book that had inside details into this case as well. Do you remember that?
I'm biting my tongue. I'm waiting to hear your point.
Well, James Patterson obviously has a huge platform. I mean, he's got millions upon millions of readers that respect his work, because a lot of his writing is very actually realistic. Even though he's building a story, it's very realistic to what real life is. Coming from a guy that's actually done time and committed crimes, I've read many of his books, and I could actually see a lot of it coming from true stories. But he backed off of this, and I think he did it for a very good purpose and a very good reason. Is he knew it was not the right thing to do to come out with any type of story prior to this actually going to trial, because I mean, what happens now? Bloom does all of this and his book comes out, and then all of a sudden Brian's acquitted, and the FBI announces that they've got two other suspects that they just arrested 3 states over that's actually committed their fourth and fifth crimes just like this one. And now all of us are looking at Howard Bloom with our hands up going, what type of garbage are you? What type of garbage are you? And that's legitimately what's going to happen. I'm telling you, even if Brian Kohberger goes to trial and maybe gets convicted, it's going to go through the appeals process. And this is a case that's very serious, and Howard Bloom just turned it into a joke. He just turned this into a joke, and many of us are upset about that. Many of us are very upset about that. So,
Oh yeah, totally. Um, I haven't heard of Howard. I've never heard of Howard Bloom until the Idaho 4 case happened, and I didn't even I don't rarely watch Daniel from Drunk Turkey Show. The only time I watched it was when you were on there, brother, and when you were on there, Kiki. Other than that, I really don't watch Drunk Turkey Show. And
Kiki.
when I heard Howard Bloom was going to be on there, I'm like, yeah, I'm really not watching it now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be unfair of me not to say a couple things that people said in my defense when I've given really crappy interviews before, which is number one, we don't know what circumstances the interview was given under. We don't know what was allowed to ask. We don't know if there was a prior relationship between, DTS and Bloom. Maybe he had an NDA. Maybe he couldn't say it. Who knows? Because this isn't the first book that Howard Bloom has come out with, and it's not his first time, talking to YouTubers. So I do know that sometimes, particularly people who have contracts with other networks they're giving interviews on, they tell the interview they're not going to answer certain questions. So that's not making excuses, but that does kind of explain why it was just, it felt like we were hearing I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but it felt like it was more of a promotion rather than an interview. But I did want to reflect some of the things that were said in the chat. One thing when we were going back to Kopaka, and I believe it was Glenda was saying that people who work in I didn't know the right term, but he basically worked in maintenance, was the second reporting for Kopaka for Wasu. And she said that sometimes that job description can include IT work. So that's just interesting to say. And then, gosh, it got me thrown off talking about Howard Bloom. I'm going to stop talking right now. You talk, Robert.
Okay, Candy Girl says the issue is not that he was a bad interview, rather this man does not deserve a platform.
Yeah, I mean, if I can interject just real quick, like I didn't have a problem with Drunk Turkey Show doing the interview. That's fine. Drunk Turkey reached out, or Howard Bloom reached out. However that came about, the platform was set, the interview was done. And that's the, and I have no issue with it. If that's what those two choose to do, more power to them. I support it. That's a great platform for both, I guess. My whole statement that I would make back to what you said, Kiki, is the book. You may have had interesting conversations and interviews and things that we've done. I've done it too, trust me. And things get said and things get talked about, and that's fine. We didn't put out a book. We didn't put out a book referencing the thoughts of a defendant and maybe even a potential relationship with his father and various other things based off of gut feelings that we're trying to portray as, well, this is going to be the said story based off my inside sources. Well, come on. Do people really truly believe I haven't talked to people close to this case? Kiki, do people believe you haven't talked to people close to this case? We've all got inner circles of people we talk to. I have talked to very close people to this case. I just don't bring that out. I don't reference it. I don't write about it. I don't disclose it. I don't even make the insinuation that I have insider information. I just give my thoughts and clarify them as my thoughts, my opinions, my feelings. That's how I protect myself. And I also would never have a confidential, discussion with people that I tell them in confidence what we talk about is between you and then come out and write about it or disclose it and then promote myself to sell it as if I'm the voice that needs to be heard. I don't see it that way. But, just lastly, before I let you guys have, I'm not holding it against Daniel and Drunk Turkey Show for doing the interview. If he gets that opportunity, great. He should take it. He should do it. And I have no issue with that. I don't think he did anything wrong. My issue is the promotion of the book. And I'll leave it at that.
It mine's the same way, brother. Um, it's it's the book. I mean, like you said in one of your videos, it's not going to be in the nonfiction section. It's going to be in the fiction section. Why write a book about the unalivings if it's going to be fiction and not nonfiction? Because most of the stuff he writes about is fiction, and that's going to be in the book. It's going to be a fiction book.
Your floor, Kinky.
Oh, it's my floor. I actually wrote an entire statement about this because, like, I don't know if I want to read it to you guys. I can kind of paraphrase it, but I want to talk, like, just kind of share something personally about me. I really don't want to, like, I literally wrote 3 paragraphs on it because this particular subject bothers me. And I don't like the fact that we're necessarily categorizing what Bloom is doing as journalism when it's going to be put into the fictional section. And the reason, I am not a writer, I'm not a journalist, but every scrap of food I ate as a child was paid for by a journalist and a writer. My father was, and he was a really, really good journalist. He was a senior editor. He worked for magazines and newspapers, and he did freelance online work, and he's retired now. But throughout my whole life, even my adult life, he basically did all my editing. And I just want to give an example. I read a eulogy for my grandmother. We had her funeral this Halloween, so not that long ago. And before I went up to read the eulogy, I had my father, of course, edit it for me so that it was written properly. And we get to this one part, which was like 80 years ago, talking about how many people and the names of the people that lived in this one home. And he had me take that part of the eulogy out because he was nervous that I would have the facts wrong and we might offend somebody in the audience who was there to honor the deceased. And we have a population of less than 2,000 in that small town where I was delivering the eulogy in that church. And I find it interesting that the ethics of a journalist would be that strong for a eulogy. That's a journalist. That's someone who fact checks and does proper writing. That's not journalism when you write a book that was potentially going to be written by James Patterson. This is one of those novels that my mother-in-law finishes reading that I lend to my friend Apple to finish. It's like, that's what this is. This is the equivalent to a trashy romance novel. I'll give another example because I come from a family of people who do this for a living. My brother is a television producer. And he works for a major news station. He's probably watching right now. Hi, Tony. And he's been nominated for at least 5 Emmys, and he's won 2. And one of them was for human trafficking and his work studying and covering human trafficking. And it's just so interesting what drives people. He's there to help people. He doesn't get money for that. That's not going to be the #1 segment on the news. It's not going to make all the headlines. It's something he's doing for his community and for his craft and for his writing. And it's just, that's the good investigative work that you see from a journalist. This is not what we're looking at here. So I just wanted to say my piece because I just find it outrageous that we have, as true crimers, we're using somebody who's writing a fiction novel as a source for information, especially when we've read and heard the families denounce the first book and things that were in some of the information that was given. So I just don't understand how we spend so much time fact checking and so much time checking each other in the true crime community. And then Bloom can come in and just say whatever he wants. And one more point I will make about Howard Bloom. As far as I know, Moscow, Idaho is like God's country. And I just want to know, do you guys think, from seeing Howard Bloom's personality on the Drunk Turkey Show, do you think that this man going around shaking hands in Moscow, Idaho, is going to have every door open to him? What people do you think would talk to Howard Bloom? That's my question. Do you think everybody would open up to a man like that? So I'll leave that last point, and I'm sure everyone's going to let me hear it in the chat. So
I'd say Scott Green's the first one, but because look at Bloom, he's successful, and Scott Green wants to be successful. I mean, what do you think, brother?
You know, when it comes to the acceptance of Howard Bloom, you're gonna have at all times a handful and a grouping of people that are gonna be more than willing to shake his hand and open, their door to him and discuss things. But when it really comes down to the bottom line of figuring that out, do you think Steve Gonzalez or Christy Gonzalez will open their door and shake hands with that man? And these are the type of people that are the most important because they are the ones that are striving to get justice for their daughter. And if they at all felt as though Bloom was a creditable person or someone that was putting out the correct information to help their children get justice, they would be the first ones to support him. And in my opinion, from what I understand, right now they're one of the first people to slam the door in that man's face. So I don't think that the overall would be shaking hands and high fiving Howard Bloom in the area. And I don't think that he got as many people to open their door and discuss things with him as he wants to claim. I think he got people that were more of the backstabbing grouping, like the Brad Nortons and the people like that were willing to share information even outside of the confidence of others or whatever might have happened. I mean, it could even be bogus info for all we know. But and Kiki, just to follow up real quick, because I really enjoyed that, the information you shared in regards to your background, your family, and the journalism. My father, well, my stepfather, who is a great man, he was a banker for almost 50 years. Just one of the nicest people in the community. Shook hands, and it was all about truth, truth, truth. God, love, taking care of others. And I guess that's where him and I were always on a different path. But he's a writer. He's put out a couple of books now. One of his books, Walking with Herb, just got made into a movie, with some big name actors like George Lopez was in it and some other people. And it's based off of literally kind of the relationship between my mother and him and the kids. Of course, I got left out of the story. They had to leave that part out. But, and I agree with you. I think it's so important that the transparency, like in the case of a journalist, which Howard Bloom claims to be, it is about fact checking. And my father's books, were a religious based kind of self help type book. So he had to base it off of the truth of life and the way we treat each other in relationships. And the only way he could back that up was never to accept one penny of profit from the books. Everything is donated to different charities, churches. He's never accepted one penny off of his movie, not one penny off of his book. And that's why I applaud your family and the respect that they deserve for the way that they did their business and the way that they handled themselves, because that's the way it should be done. That's the absolute way it should be done.
Thank you so much, AR, for saying that. I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that too. I can relate to you so much more hearing that too, because it's a special thing when somebody has the gift of being able to paint a picture in words. And also it's not just a gift, it's a skill. Being able to use the English language and write in it is wonderful. And I just wanted to address Carla's comment that Robert put up. Carla says, for those listening and not watching, question, would the parents be able to sue Bloom for misinformation on the case when it's done? And I mean, the only example that we would have would be and we got that echo again, the first defamation case, which was Ashley Gilliard. And when it comes to that would be a civil lawsuit, you have to prove damages. So I don't know. Now, with the other question I would have, or people have brought up to me, if somebody is perpetuating a known lie, is that interfering with an investigation? I don't know. But I mean, I really don't know where freedom of speech is, where criminal comes in. But I guess the big concern is if there is a perpetuating a known falsehood, the only way for the families to sue is if they can actually prove there was some sort of damages. You can't just say, this hurt me, I'd like $1 million. You have to say, okay, well, I lost this, so it has to be provable in court too.
There's there would be no lawsuit against Bloom because he's gonna enact his, First Amendment, being able to write, do all of this, but he's also gonna have it in the fictional area, and he will fall back on that at any point in time necessary, saying, "Hey, I was just telling a story. I never said it was the absolute truth." And it's gonna be interesting to see. Does he use real names in the book? Does he really legitimately refer to these people by their actual names? I think that'd be a big mistake if he did.
Oh yeah, it would be a big mistake if he did, um, because I wouldn't want to be Bloom with Steve Gonzalez charging at me. Because
Yeah,
one of the earlier comments was, and Steve Gonzalez would open the door and punch Bloom in the face.
yeah, I would agree. I've had basic conversation back and forth with Mr. Gonzalez, nothing in depth because I believe both of us knew it wasn't the best of fits for conversations. And I'm not the one that reached out to him. I actually received initial correspondence from him that I just responded to. And I'll tell you, he is, in speaking with him, just based off my own experience. I can't put anybody else's experiences out there other than mine. And our discussion was not based on the Idaho 4 case. It was not talking about his daughter. It was not talking about anything in regards to the case. So I don't want people to misconstrue that. We were actually talking in regards to his brother who's in the penitentiary. Um, and he gave me some information in regards to that. And then he said, "I'm going to leave it in your hands on how you want to move forward with this, knowing the proper information and the story behind it. Now you choose to do what you want to do with that." And I chose to leave it alone. I didn't move forward with that. Um, I guess out of respect, I just feel as though he confided in me. He gave me some very, I guess, just details that were very personal. He talked about his upbringing. He talked about his family. He talked about his mother. He talked about things that I felt as though, wow, I can't believe he's actually confiding this into me because of the opportunity that one could have to throw this out all over the place. And that's why I made my decision that I was just going to leave it alone. It was just best to leave it right where it was at. And I guess I've always tried to carry myself, even though I've had my background and the mistakes I've made in life. I try to conduct myself with respect and integrity in the way that I treat others, especially now that I've gotten older and I have a good wife that helps walk me through the everyday process of a better lifestyle. So I wanted to take the higher road when it came to that situation. And I hope at the end of the day that inside he could respect me for doing that and say, "Oh, that was a great conversation," and we leave it at that. But from what I've gotten from his personality, um, he's a very loving person of his family. He's strict, and he is really a no BS type guy. He's really a no BS type guy, and I respect that because that's how I am too. So I think that made me respect him even more in regards to that. Now I've got other things I could say about him in other areas, but on that topic, that's how I would like to leave that. So
Yeah, see, well, like with my background, um, I was raised middle class. I was adopted by my grandparents at 2 years old because I was in a very bad situation with my biological mom and my biological dad. I was a, I was I was I was physically abused for uh, from the time I was a year old to 2 years old. Um, the landlord came in one day and found me laying in my crib, and I was covered in bed sores. So the landlord called the DCF down there in Florida, where my parents were living at the time was Florida. DCF took me from my parents. I was adopted, yeah, and my grandparents who lived here in Wichita, went down to Florida, fought for me, and the case, the judge in the case severed my mom's rights and gave me to my grandparents, which they had ended up adopting me when I was 6 years old. I was raised with my biological mom being my sister, because it was her parents that it was her mom that adopted me, um, and so I was raised middle class, and then started getting into the wilder stuff when I met my first wife, uh, and she ended up cheating on me like numerous times. I got my first charge back in 2004, which was aggravated robbery, and uh, how it happened, brother, was a friend of mine, his I'm not going to name his name, but a friend of mine was supposed to get into a fight with his ex friend over some old beef. I was supposed to be the lookout in case somebody jumped in. Well, my ex wife was dating my friend at the time, and she yelled at my friend to take the guy's money, and it was and which my friend was a dum dum, and he heeded what she was screaming at him, and it was enough to get us all a felony. It was roughly about $1,100, and they were being interrogated. We all three were being interrogated. I lawyered up real quick, because my mom watched a lot of cop dramas. My adopted mom did. So I lawyered up, and they were in opposite interrogation rooms, basically throwing each other under the bus. So I got hit with accessory. I got hit with a aggravated robbery, but my underlying sentence was supposed to be 76 months, but I got probation for it. I was out for a year, and I ended up reoffending with an arson charge, and which revocated my probation, and I went to actual prison for from 2006 to 2008, and I got out of prison vowing never to go back. And this is almost 20 years. This is almost 20 years later. I have not even gotten in trouble once in all that 20 years.
well, that's how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to stay out.
Yeah. Yeah. I met my second wife back in 2009, right after I got a work release. I was living in an apartment which was like literally about a mile from work release, and her and I got married. back on June 11th, on June 12th, 2011, 12 days after my birthday, and she passed away in September of 2011 from a heart attack at the age of 28. And I was just kind of adrift for a while, going from one girlfriend to the next. And then back in 2014, I met my wife now, and we've been together for 9 years. It'll be a decade this coming January. And they
That's
keep
awesome. That's awesome.
and trust me, she keeps me on the straight and narrow. Um, yeah, she's always telling me, she goes, she said, if you ever get in trouble and go back to prison, I'm divorcing you. I'm like, and I always joke with her. I said, I would never thought I would marry my warden.
Yeah,
Robert,
I got arrested the first time when I was 11. So I get it.
But yeah, that's my
Guess
little backstory, brother.
Yeah, I got arrested in
Go ahead.
1988 at the age of 11 for the first time. I robbed an Albertsons. Imagine that, an Albertsons. For a bunch of alcohol at the age of 11. So.
Yeah, Jeff H goes, way to go, Robert. That is awesome. You found a good path and are staying on it. Yeah, I don't want to do anything to jeopardize my daughter. She'll actually be 10 this coming March. 3 more years, she'll be a teenager, brother. Oh my God. Yeah, I thought I was bad as a teenager. She's got my attitude and my temper rolled up into a tiny package. But one time, brother, Christy Gonzalez reached out to me. This was a long time ago. This was this was actually around the time that somebody was not yes somebody before somebody was on my channel, and she reached out to me, and I was talking to her, and I gave her my condolences for Kaylee and everything, and she was supposed to call me later that night because she wanted to say what she had to say on one of my lives. Well, she ended up never calling me, and I'm like, okay, no sweat off my nose. But it's around that time it was around that time I did a video about the drug connection to the house, which I'm starting to actually wonder if there was actually a drug connection to the house at all. I mean, I know as far as maybe Dylan or Bethany, but not the actual victims. You were gonna say something, Kiki?
oh, well, a couple of things to say, but I just, with the last comment that you made, I think that I've heard from other places confirm that the toxicology reports came back negative, but we did hear that confirmed. I think it was from Bloom recently. So yeah, I mean, that does add another element to what we're talking about. I just wanted to reflect what's being said in the chat and just, my immediate reaction to hearing a little bit of your story, Robert. And I just want to say, the first thing is, I'm so sorry for your loss. That could have set anybody back, and it shows that you stuck to that must have been really difficult, but you stuck to the straight and narrow. And also, I just think it's amazing to hear your story, because you are that small percentage of people who comes out and says, I'm not going to reoffend, and you did the hard work and you stuck to it and you didn't. I mean, you are the example. So I just, we can't stop without pausing and saying, and I mean, I've said it to AR before, but I've never had the chance to say it to Robert. You both are. And it's just nice to hear, not only are you guys out and not reoffending, but you're such wonderful, productive members of society. And you're both very talented, and it's reflected in the amount of people that tune in to watch your channels. So I just wanted to say that piece too.
Yeah, because my second wife, I was in the room when she went into cardiac arrest. Yeah, I was in the room that day because she was set up for a heart cath at this local heart hospital here in Wichita, and everything was fine. She was picking out what she wanted to eat that day, and she asked me if they had Dr. Pepper, and I told her no. She goes, "Well, what do they have?" I said, "Pepsi Coke." She goes, "Just give me a Pepsi." And they were prepping her for the procedure, and and she went through the procedure. Her doctor came out and said that her cholesterol count was that of a 50-year-old woman, and she was 28. So they were prepping her for emergency open heart surgery. They said I was allowed to go back there in the ICU where they were prepping her at, and I walked in the room, walked her to her right side, bent down, kissed her. I said, "I love you, baby," and she goes, "I love you too, honey." And about 5 minutes later, she went into cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And the only and well, and the only weird thing was I had a dream about it like 2 days before it happened, and um, her mom said that was God. That was God preparing me for the inevitable.
I believe that. I believe that our dreams are from God, and I've always believed that. I used to study like dream interpretation books. I wouldn't say I've always believed that. I've come to believe that. I used to study dream interpretation books, and they typically are based on other people's psyche. But the way that, not to get like all spiritual on you guys, but there are instructions in the Bible to interpret your dreams. And so I don't think the dreams are just a process when we go to sleep. They are more than that. And so I do believe dreams are from God. And if you don't know how to interpret them, sometimes there's special people in our lives, like your mother-in-law, who can interpret them for you. So, but again, so sorry for your loss, that trauma. It seems like you're an incredibly strong person for persevering through that type of trauma and staying on the path that you are on.
Yeah, yeah, it was hard for it was hard for a long time. And then recently, I lost my little brother, and yeah, AR, like I've told you before, if you were like my rock through everything with my little brother, and I actually had a chance to see my nephew earlier today, and he's according to his mom, he's not taking it well. They're going to have to put him in a home because of his disability, because he's not taking the death very well. He's becoming more violent in school.
Well, I mean, if I can interject real quick, and I don't want to cut you guys off, but I just want to spend a moment, Robert, just kind of share a little bit of my feelings for you as a person, and the one reason why um, I kind of I stand by you. I'm not above you. I'm not below you. I'm not here to guide you in any certain way. I'm here to support you as a person because I like you for one, but you almost feel like family to me, and I don't get that way with many. And I know you're battling. I know there's tough times that you're enduring now, and I can sense that you've battled tough times in the past, and I feel that within you. But I'm going to say something, and I truly mean this, Robert, and I hope you listen to it. You are handling it like a man, you're handling it with respect, and you're being successful in being a good person all the way through, no matter the negativity that's brought your way. You are doing it exactly the right way, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be your friend. I'm proud to be like a brother to you, and I will always support you through anything that you're going through because you deserve that. You absolutely deserve that. And I know we're live and I know we're talking true crime, and but I had to get that off my chest. The reason why I'm here and I stand beside you is because of the person you are and how proud of you that I am.
Well, thank you so
So
much, brother. I know sometimes I could be a pain, but I want to say thank you. Um, Thank you for everything. I know in the past we've had our ups and downs over a certain creator on my channel, and another certain creator that you had uh, beef with. And I want to say thank you for always standing there by my side and supporting me. And I see you as a brother. And I know I'm probably older than you. I see you like a little brother, and I will always stand by and support you as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we're almost the same age, Robert. I don't think I am older or a year older.
I'm 51.
Oh, you're older than me. That's good.
But now, you were talking that the other night in the video about the Madeline Soto case. Um, what are your thoughts on that case, brother?
Boy, it's an outrage. Um, the individual that Stern is, the so-called boyfriend, is outrageous enough. But then, coming from a background of abuse by a mother that I endured, I get angry with the mom. It's like a sacrificial lamb. You're willing to allow your child the pain, and I don't know how I would be as a father. I dated a young lady kind of before Jennifer in my days of being in and out of trouble, that had a daughter that I took in as my own, and I would do anything for that little girl. I would protect that little girl from anything and everything. I got upset at anybody that bumped into her. I took it very seriously, even though I wasn't the biological parent. I took it very seriously as being a dad figure, even though I was unfortunately in a time of my life making bad decisions. I always wanted the best for her. Every dollar I earned, I gave, towards her. I wanted her to go to college. And so, when I look at a case like Madeline's case, it just drives me nuts and makes me pull my hair out. And it's yeah, the guy's bad enough, but then you got a mom that just doesn't care. And how much does this have to happen in our society? I mean, it's sick and it's hard to endure and it's hard to see, and it almost makes you tear up every time we see something like this happen time and time again. It's not even about being true crime content creators at that point. We're normal human beings that were looking at another devastated child. And then on top of that, some of them are even not only having to endure the pain, but they're losing their lives, they're losing their future, they're losing their chances of having their own families one day, their own happiness, their own adult lives. And that's why I have to avoid talking about so many cases because I get so emotional and angry about it. I have to avoid it. So Kiki, you've been quiet too long. You got to talk now.
Oh gosh, this case, the case you guys are talking about, the Madeline Soto case, is just, I mean, there's not a person watching who can't be deeply disturbed by this case. It's so sad. The one thing I will say is, because I haven't been doing true crime or following true crime that long, it's almost a year now. We've been doing the podcast, but about 11 months. really gets to me, because I'm obviously working on the Idaho 4. So adults, when you start covering these children cases, they're just, they rip your heart out. And one thing I didn't realize, there was some sort of SA predator law that was passed in Florida, where, and maybe the internet can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but it was something along the lines of, if you are convicted of SA to a child under a certain age, it was something along the lines of life in prison. And it just so happened that she was becoming, into her teenage years, she was becoming conscious. So she's approaching being a young lady, and she's going to become conscious of what has just happened to her. If she, and she probably already was conscious. And when I say the word conscious, I mean that she is not detached from the situation. She's in the present moment, realizing she's around a predator. And when I started looking in the Madeline Soto case, maybe it was because of the algorithm, I started getting recommended these other cases. And they were all young girls between the ages of, like, say 13 and 15, who went missing, and nobody found them. And they all had this same similar thread to the Madeline Soto case. It was a little girl who had been being abused for years when she was naive and detached from the reality of what was actually happening. And now she was becoming a conscious young lady, and her life is now threatened. So that little girl waking up every day doesn't realize, not only is she trying to protect herself from this predator she lives with, but that predator is sizing her up to see, with every word she says, if she's going to snitch on him. And can you imagine this little girl just talking normally to her predator, and him deciding, okay, it's just the most horrific thing you can think of. And as far as the mother, I mean, I don't know what to think, but we'll find out at trial. And I don't know what to say, So anyway, that's
Yeah, just
I
like
think
John
what
Morgan
upset.
Okay,
Oh,
hold on.
sorry,
I
Rob.
wanted to read this question real quick. Just like John Morgan just said, Jen Soto didn't care about her daughter. That is strange. Or this is strange.
I mean, some parents are just not capable of being parents, and I know people would look at it and say, "Well, that means they don't care." But some parents are willing to allow their child to be put up for adoption or go live with another family member that could do a better job raising that child. They may not be capable of being a parent, but they care enough to make that decision and get that child to a better place. What pisses me off the most in regards to the way these cases are handled, and this is, it's right in my title of A Convict's Thoughts. I mean, people have to understand, I look at a lot of these things from the eye of somebody that's been in the system, and I know that this guy that just committed one of the ultimate worst of crimes, and it's hard to judge what type of crimes are worse than others. Like, I get it. The Idaho 4 is a horrific tragedy, horrible crime. But this to a young lady that doesn't have the power or the say so to protect herself from what's happening to her, because even there's a potential that her mother is playing a part of this. But what's really upsetting about it, if this guy goes to the penitentiary, he's going to literally have a cakewalk in the penitentiary, being that he's going to be in a protective custody situation that's far different. Robert, I'm sure you remember population. Your life is at risk on the yard at any point in time. You have to watch everybody around you. And this guy's going to have his own cell, his own TV. He'll go out to wreck. He's not going to have the ultimate experience of the fear of the penitentiary, and he's committed a crime far worse than either you or I, Robert, and he's going to have a much easier path than we ever did.
Oh yeah, it's like when I first got sentenced to my underlying sentence of 7 to 6 months, they sent me to El Dorado Correctional Facility, to RDU, which was Regional Diagnostic Unit, and I was in there for about 5 to 6 weeks. I got to my first camp, which was Norton. I got there on 6/6/6, June 6th of 2006, and I was medium custody inmate. And the Norton is basically a cakewalk camp. What I found out, because there's a lot of inmates at Norton that are sex offenders, and they have their own floor, and they have their own cell house. And I was only there a year, and I signed up for this program. At the time, it was called IFI, which was Interfaith Freedom Initiative. It's now called Brothers in Blue. And I got to basically, I was a minimum custody inmate by the time I got to Lansing, and I was behind the walls of Max. And IFI had its own cell house, and our cell house was right above the hole, basically solitary. And there was several times where, I almost got busted for tobacco, because here in the state of Kansas, smoking in prison is illegal now. But before I went to work release, which I was in work release for about 8 months. I was supposed to be there 5 months, but I got popped for three different tobacco violations because I got busted smoking in the bathroom. But I've seen exactly how a sex offender is treated in prison, and it's a cakewalk. Yeah, they get that. Yeah, you look at them wrong, and you have a CO breathing down your neck, telling you not to even look at them like the way you did. I did get in trouble in Norton. I was in the C1 cell house, and my cellie was an asatru. A lot of people don't know what a asatru is. It's like it's a branch of Norse paganism, almost like the Aryan Brotherhood. But I was hired by them to steal face sheets from the sex offenders treatment program, because I was a porter on that floor, and I got busted because somebody told them they caught me taking face sheets back to the C1 cell house.
In I did a lot of time in Arizona, and they have their own complexes in Arizona. Child offenders aren't allowed on any of the actual normal yards because it's mandated that the minute that they're found out, their lives are taken. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be a minimum inmate. If you're around them, you have to take that individual's life. So, I mean, if anybody ever wanted to look up where I started my time, was in Florence, Arizona at Iman Unit, which my cell door was 8 feet away from death row, the beginning of death row. So I was in close custody max security for I don't even know how many years, but forever. So I mean I was right next to death row. I heard everybody on death row talk every day and beg for their lives. But for the way I had to walk on a yard compared to what this guy is gonna have is just, it's not fair, because I mean I had to fight for my life every single day. This guy's gonna lay back and eat honey buns, and I can't ever say that my crimes come anywhere near what this guy's done. So
You look like you want to say something, Kiki.
No, I it's just interesting to hear. I have heard that people who go to prison for that can never be in Gen Pop because they won't be. And so I don't know, and it's interesting here the way that you're categorizing it as a cakewalk, basically. But what else are they going to do? Because it's going to be cruel and unusual punishment if they release them into general population. I've talked about there was a terrible homicide in the town a city that I used to work in, and I've talked about how when they brought there was like 4 teenagers involved, and when they brought the teenagers to the courthouse, they couldn't even pull in because literally the whole parking lot was full of people who were just going to take care of these kids. They weren't going to let them get arraigned even. They were just going to vigilante justice everyone. But I found out later on, years later, I was talking to somebody else who had spent time in one of the places where the 2 of these people were being held, which is a place called Valley Street. They were there temporarily before they went to the max security. And I was told that they weren't, and I mean, they couldn't be put into some sort of protective custody, and their lives were basically a living hell inside of that prison. So I don't know if it's maybe just the, sex offenders that get, but I don't know, like, do you always, for your entire stint in prison, get that luxury of protective custody? Or I've also heard if you want any resemblance of living your life, you have to give up that protective custody to just have some freedom inside of the prison walls. I'm kind of 2 questions there for you guys.
See, like here in the state of Kansas, if you go into protective custody, they actually transfer you from the prison that you went into protective custody at. Like there was a gentleman who was a sex offender. He got beat up on the yard. The COs put him in protective custody, and then they transferred him to a different prison here in Kansas. And just because you live in protective custody doesn't mean you're going to stay at the prison that you went into protective custody at. You could go to a different prison, and I know in Lansing, where I was at from 07 to 08, they have a special side of the whole that's protective custody. So if you're coming from one prison to protective custody, like say you're coming from Hutch East or Hutch South, and you're going to Lansing, you'll spend the rest of your time in segregation in protective custody on the special side down in segregation in Lansing. They have a disciplinary side and they have a protective custody side. And there was quite a few people in protective custody in Lansing that had came in from other prisons in Kansas.
Yeah, in the states I'm from, they actually have their own complexes with different level yards, medium, minimum, medium, max, but it's their own yard, and they can never come off of that to go back into general population once they go to that, because they know sex offenders are outlawed on every yard, and all paperwork where I'm from gets checked immediately upon you coming on the yard. The inmates from your race check your paperwork, and if you don't have your paperwork, then you're sent on your way, in a bad way anyway. So they've learned that they can't even bring them onto the yards anymore, so they created their own. But I know exactly what you're talking about in the CDU unit, Robert, with the cages for rec where you have disciplinary and you have all that. But I've seen so many lose their lives for various reasons on yards, and typically it's because the state tries to sneak somebody in that has these types of charges, or they have snitching or whatever, and they literally should be in protected custody, and the state just says, the hell with it, we're going to try to sneak them in because we don't have any more room. We got to put them into general pop, and then it lasts for all of a couple hours and it's over. So I mean, it's quick and it's over fast, and it doesn't matter what yard you're on. I still have a very good friend that's on death row in Arizona. He's killed 3 people on the run in death row itself, for various different reasons. So it's not like you're anywhere in general population you're not safe. It doesn't matter if they call it 23-1 or AdSeg or whatever, where you're locked down all day. Robert, you know this to be true as well. It doesn't matter where you're at, you could be got. That's why they put these type of offenders on their own complexes now, and they just mingle with their own. They tell stories of what they've done in life, and it's sickening to me, but this is the privilege that they get.
Yeah, I could see a little like in Norton. Norton is basically a sex offender camp. I mean, it's medium custody inmates, and there's just there's like a hodgepodge of, like, I was there for my ag robbery and the attempted arson, and then there was people there that was doing life for murder, um and there's this one Mexican gentleman who I met when I was there. He was serving a life sentence for murder, but they got him as a sex offender because he during the murder he used a stick to penetrate the victim. So they got not only got him with the murder, but they also labeled him as a sex offender. And I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, how how can that be labeled a sex offender if he murdered her? And he goes, oh, I don't. He said, I don't know. He said, that's just what they did to me. And I met this one Colombian gentleman when I was in Norton. He was finishing up his 10-year sentence because he was going to do 66 years in Fed. And his name was Sergio Castillo, and he showed me his space sheet and everything. This dude was him and his brother had been on an episode of the FBI files, because they were these big time drug dealers from Colombia, and they were ratted on by everyone that worked for them. His Sergio's brother is serving 6 life sentences in a supermax in Colorado, and they got popped with like 6,600 pounds of cocaine on a boat off the shore of Florida, and they had like tons of guns and assault weapons, and they had a Stinger, they had a Harpoon missile launcher, and I'm looking at this, and this dude, he was like shorter than me, and he was very mild mannered, and I was thinking, I said, ain't no way this guy is this dangerous. And then he showed me his tattoo. It was an MS-13 tattoo, and I'm like, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm not gonna mess with this dude. I mean, he was my next door neighbor in my cell house, but I never wanted to make this guy mad because of all his charges and exactly what type of inmate he was. And he was deemed a high profile, high violence inmate until he completed his sentence in the state, and then he went on to do 66 years in feds. And that was his plea.
I did.
That was his plea. His plea was 10 years state, 66 years feds.
I get it, because if I violate, I have a life sentence waiting for me in the feds. So, and I was reading Scott Mack's comment about how Texas State Prison, which I had to do some time in Texas as well, and he's very correct on how Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, they're all extremely strict in regards to paperwork and how inmates are looked at. So, and that's one thing I want to kind of comment on too. Brian Kohberger, up in the area that he's at, he doesn't have a simple road if convicted either. And, especially if this comes down off of a death penalty and somehow he gets life, in the penitentiary up there. And I haven't done actual penitentiary time in Idaho, but I did it right next door in Washington State at Walla Walla, and it's the same concept. It's the same everything in regards to politics, and it. And Brian's going to step into an eye-opening, very shocking system up there that it's very race political. It's you can't break bread with other races. You can't have conversation with other races unless you've earned the right to do so. It's very regulated and disciplinarian by the prisoners within the unit. So if he gets life without parole, he's not going to be a happy camper. I mean, I hate to say that. He's not going to be a happy camper because it's a very, very strict political area. So that's one thing that I hope, and I've sent a lot of communication to Brian in regards to I guess what the situation is and what he would be kind of facing, and if there was any way I could kind of help and get him acquainted with the concepts. But we'll see. I'm hoping that he gets a fair shake and a fair trial, because the penitentiaries up there by no means are fair shakes and fair about things. So
Yeah, this comment from Nicole Clark. I keep thinking about the movie Demolition Man. I was always fascinated with how the inmates were housed for serving their sentences. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, Kiki, but Demolition Man takes place in 2032, and the inmates are cryogenically frozen. Uh, that's how they serve their sentences, in being cryogenically frozen with like little transmitters on their on their temples that teaches them different trades like knitting uh, or IT or some type of domestic trade while they're being cryogenically frozen for their sentences.
yeah, if it was only that easy.
But I mean, going back to the fair shake, brother, um, I don't see Brian getting a fair shake as long as the trial is there in Latah County. Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I mean, because you have Bill Thompson, who is always throwing his little fits during the hearings, and she's wanting to have it moved to Ada County, which is basically Boise, either Boise or Lewiston. But Bill Thompson doesn't want to travel for this trial. And what kind of piqued my curiosity was that statement the judge made at one of the hearings. I don't even know if this case is going to make it to trial. But yet you have Bill Thompson stating that he doesn't want to do a plea. He doesn't want to give him life in prison. He wants to give him the death penalty. And we all know that's because the victims' families, namely the Gonzaleses, are rooting for the death penalty. And I just don't see Brian getting I don't see Brian getting a fair trial there in Latah County. I mean, period. I don't think he would get a fair trial because you saw exactly how Bill Thompson threw a tantrum because of um, Eidelman asking those jury survey questions, and why are they so quick to call 911 over a jury survey instead of calling 911 the night of the murders? That just don't make no sense to me.
Yeah, I personally don't think Bill Thompson makes it to trial. I think he retires. I think Bill Thompson's going to retire before this gets to trial. So mean, I don't see him being a major part of this a year or two down the road, because he's gonna have to hand it off anyway. Because if this trial, let's say for some reason, has to go into appeal effect, he's not going to be around for the appeal process. So, I mean, what he's going to probably just stay on as like counselor to whoever's going to prosecute this case. But I don't see it being him. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if people really kind of want to legitimately know what Brian Kohberger's facing, if he's convicted, what the path for him would be moving forward, towards the penitentiary and what his future would look like. I can only give you the idea. I mean, death row, obviously, he quickly goes into like a little disposition center where they evaluate him, they get his mental state, and then they ship him off to death row. There's really only one place to go. But if he gets life in prison with no possibility of parole, it opens up a whole wide spread realm of where he could be housed, what he could be, housed as. They will not keep him housed in Idaho. People maybe just don't understand that fact, that when you get a major inmate that's been sentenced, almost like a Chris Watts or a Brian Kohberger or somebody that's been on the front page of everything, they're going to ship you out of state in what's called a inmate transfer, to a different state that also has a high profile case that they need to get out of the state, and they'll ship them to Idaho. So for Brian Kohberger's sake, he wouldn't go anywhere on the East Coast near Pennsylvania or anything of that nature, because that's also a high probability of where he's known to be. So Brian Kohberger, unfortunately, from Idaho is going to be shipped south towards Texas, New Mexico. He's going to go into one of those states, and an inmate on those states that starts with life without parole starts on what's called ADSEG, high security yard. It's a single man cell. It's almost equivalent to what he's sitting in jail in right now, except for he can have commissary and a TV. And he has to be there a minimum of 5 years to a maximum of 15 years before he can go in front of a board to be reclassified. And that's where they could deem, okay, he's just a high level inmate. We could send him off to close custody. Now he can actually go into a cell with somebody else. He can go to rec yard with people. He can go to the chow hall to eat. And over time, he could work his way down to what, a medium high yard would be the lowest he could ever go, where he could get a job on the yard. But I mean, he's never going to be one that has more than 4 hours worth of rec in a day, where minimum inmates get like 8 to 10 hours a day. I mean, he's never going to, have normal visits. So he's really in for a long haul, and he's not going to spend his time in Idaho. So people need to get that into their head. He will not serve his sentence in Idaho. He may be there a year, and then he gets shipped out. He'll go to another state. He'll go south. He'll go to one of the states down south that have trade treaties with Idaho. Now, if he's on death row, he'll never leave the state. He'll be right there, and he'll live on death row for the next 40 years. I mean, he won't get executed anytime soon, because he has to exhaust all of his appeal processes. And, from most cases, that's 30 to 35 years worth of appeals. I mean, that's just the way it is. So my buddy's been on death row now. How long has he been on death row? I think 21 years. And he's still only in his third appeal process, and he has 7. So he's been there 21 years. He's not going to get put to death. He's going to end up passing on his own. So, but Brian Kohberger may be coming to a state near you to serve his time if he gets convicted. He'll most likely, like I said, I think it would be New Mexico, Texas, possibly Arizona. It's going to be somewhere down there that he'll serve his time. So
I was just looking at some of the things in the chat, and I wanted to just bring up a couple of really great comments that I saw. I was looking at Fair Maiden's comments just to backtrack on an earlier conversation regarding BK and his father, and some of the things alluded to in Bloom's book about the conversations that could have happened between the father. And this is an interesting comment, and I didn't think of it from this perspective. It's a two-part comment. Fair Maiden Wynn says, Brian didn't drive to his new job in Washington with his dad. So naturally, his dad would ask, why should I take a plane there, son? You think how much did Brian's dad's ticket cost as an instant purchase? That wasn't my point. This next one is my point. Brian wouldn't then explain, and his dad would have basically, what Fair Maiden is saying is, if he had explained anything to his father during that ride before the arrest, his father would then be an accomplice. So what he's saying is there could be no conversation or any known conversation, because if that was actual information, if he actually did have that kind of conversation, it would have been, he would be an accomplice. So I thought that was a good observation. And then another person said in the chat, they were giving their horns and they were saying prayers for Pete Altiero. I think you were bringing up he's made some progress or some measures towards health. So hopefully the power of prayers with Pete Altieri, and he's back on YouTube soon. And then the other comment I wanted to bring up was what they know what you, when the person was, they know they exist, said, what did Howard Bloom get wrong in his book? And the fact is we can't speak on what's his book. We don't know. It doesn't come out until the 25th. They've only alluded to what's in it. What we're referencing is the first book that came out in the fall. And so if you don't know what was said about that book, it's really interesting if you go look up some of the articles. I don't know if probably people have been showing them online since this most recent interview, but Bloom's book was denounced by the families, and it had some really outrageous claims in it that we just know are factually not true as far as the information we've been provided. I'll give you an example. One of the research materials that Bloom based his first book off of said that Kaylee had tried to call 911 at 3 a.m. because she saw people in the trees. And the reason I will discredit that one piece of intel that he gathered is because Kaylee's own father released a statement in writing to attorney Andrew Myers that was released on May 15th, it was March 15th, that stated that Kaylee's phone was powered down at 2:56. So let's just say that is some speculation. I mean, we know factually from what Steve Gonzalez has put in writing, one of the victim's parents, that that's factually not true. So it's just a little example, and we're not here to, we weren't planning on picking it apart. Just that's kind of what we're referencing, is the barrage of people that came out to say the book was fictional and not an actual account of things that happened in the Idaho 4. So it was sold in the fiction section. So that's what we're referencing. And it's not stated that way when the new book is coming out. It's not advertised to us as like a romance novel that, you're going to be passing around to your girlfriends and the Oprah Book Club. It's advertised as an account of things that happened. So we'll see. I'm sorry if I answered that. I hope I answered that.
I like your analogy. Passing it around like a romance novel from an Oprah book club.
I just, people have to be careful in regards to, every day I get called a conspiracy theorist, or I'm a person that's putting out this misinformation to help find Ryan Kohberger innocent because I'm an ex-convict that doesn't want to see anybody go to prison or jail. And it's so wrong of people to say that. I want people to be convicted if they have committed the crime and it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that they are guilty of the charges they've been charged with. I don't root for anybody that's committed a crime to get off. I personally pled out on some of my own charges because I knew I was flat out guilty and I did it and I got caught and it is what it is. I'm not going to put this through the taxpayer money. I'm not going to do all this. Now, if I'm fighting for my very life to where I'm going to spend the rest of my life sitting in a prison cell, of course I'm going to take it to trial and I'm going to try to beat it. But what a lot of people don't understand on, lower level charges, and Robert, I know you learned this as well. If you take a case to trial, you, if you lose, get the max sentence on that charge. Meaning that if you've got 4 different charges and you take it to trial and lose, they're going to stack those 4 charges. Whereas you may have been offered a plea bargain of 4 or 5 years. If you take that to trial and lose, you might do 20. So you got to be very careful in the battles that you partake in. But, it's a little unfair that people that want to write a book using maybe not verified facts to write this book, but it deems someone as guilty is accepted more so than people like us that are willing to debate on issues that we see within a case and discuss that without actually making the statement, hey, I think he's innocent or I think he's guilty. I mean, we all kind of have a gut feeling within us, but we're stating as an overall, these are the problems that we see in this case. This is why I feel the way I do. And I get torn apart and shredded on a daily basis because of those feelings or the thoughts I have. And I know you guys too. And it's, I don't know. If you're a guilter, you get away with more false info than if you're somebody that's just questioning the process. Do you guys agree, or am I just kind of maybe it's me that gets it?
Oh yeah, because if I hadn't have taken my plea, which was my plea was 76 months. If I hadn't have taken that, I would have been looking at 120 months.
Yeah. Well, I know that in one of my cases, I took a plea bargain for 12 years. And if I had taken it to trial, they guaranteed me that I was doing life without parole if I lost at trial. And they were going to stack my charges at that point to where even life without parole, life without parole, life without parole, life without parole. That way, if I won on a couple of the charges in appeal, they would always have a life without parole tied to it. So I just signed for 12 years. I was like, you know what? I can't beat this. Because I feel like the narrative is so built up against me that even if I fought this at trial, it only takes that one little bit of evidence that the jury's going to grab onto and find you guilty of. And I knew they had that. I was like, dude, it's an emotional case, just like this Kohberger case. And that's what I'm so worried about. This is an emotion tied case. And when it gets before a jury, I know we all feel as though a jury's going to weigh out everything that's being said and every piece of evidence. But sometimes that emotional gravitation grabs a hold of certain people. And when they get back into that jury room, and I've never been on jury, thankfully, they don't want me on jury, but I could only imagine the discussions that go on back there where people are literally pleading with each other to feel and understand the pain of the victims' families. And I feel as though you could get some cases where that could really tie the knot into a conviction, even without all of the actual evidence to do so. So
I think that's
Now,
really.
I've been.
Oh,
I
I'm
was gonna
sorry,
say I've been.
Robert.
I was gonna say I've been thinking about this like the last couple of days. I don't. I know you agree with me somewhat, brother. I don't think the IGG is going to make it into trial. Neither will the knife sheath because of the motions that Ann Taylor will probably be filing before the trial starts, like the motion to suppress evidence. And I'd like to know what Exhibit One is. Is it the IGG? Is it Brian's car? Is it the knife sheath? I'd really like to know what Exhibit One is and why they're fighting so hard to seal it.
Go ahead, Kiki. Maybe you know the answer to that one.
Robert asked me the last time I was on here. So, okay, we'll break it down what we do know. Exhibit number 3 is the footprint of the boot. Exhibit number 4 is the diagram of the house. So I don't think they do these chronologically, although that might be it, because I've heard the crime scene is worked from the outside in. So those could be like the farthest. So if they were the farthest pieces of evidence, we might surmise it is like, say, the tire print, or it could be their initial canvas. They could have immediately saw that Ring doorbell, like at the 112 house. Or I was thinking, if they don't do it chronologically, maybe they do it in order of relevance. So that's what we were thinking last night. So we thought, okay, knife sheath, DNA, that's 1 and 2. But I've been thinking about it again, and they wouldn't probably have the DNA necessarily written in the PCA, because they weren't going to be basing it on the IgG. They were making that clear. They didn't want to base it because they didn't want to get it thrown out later. So what could that have been? Maybe the van's shoe. I don't know. Like, if it's not chronological, I'm just saying what's more important evidence, that maybe the latent footprint. Maybe we've seen lots of evidence tape suggesting that there might have been fingerprints on a door. So I'm just trying to think what the evidence is. So if there is somebody who has like a law enforcement background, the question, I guess, would be, when they're listing evidence, do they start listing it chronologically as they find it from the exterior of the house moving in? Or how do they categorize the number of the evidence? Because we do know what we're going in is boot print. The boot print was evidence number 3, and number 4 was the diagram. Anyway, that's my long answer.
I'm going to give you a little bit. I am releasing a video, so I don't want to give away too much of my thoughts, but I'm actually doing a convict's thoughts in regards to the crime scene itself. What I, as a criminal, walking this crime scene on the outside and on the inside of the house, would be specifically looking for, based off of my experience committing crimes, not only of planning, but then the break-in and the commission of the crime, and then the exit of the crime. So I'm going to actually that's my next series of videos. I believe, and the reason why I believe it's so sealed, and this is just my opinion, it's just a thought. They have a weapon. They found a weapon. I guarantee you, in this very case, the way they were investigating that living room just outside of Xana and Ethan's room, they found a weapon laying right there. A weapon that was used in an attack was found in that living room. It may not be the K-bar knife that everybody's thinking that they're looking for or searching for due to the sheath, but there's a weapon that's laid right there that was used against one of the victims, whether it be a golf club, whether it be something from the kitchen, because they went in and tore up that kitchen. And there's only 2 reasons why they would tear up that kitchen. Something was used from that kitchen in the commission of the crime, because there's not going to be blood seeping from upstairs into that kitchen. Like people have said, it's coming down, blah, blah, blah. Something was used from inside that kitchen as a part of the commission of the crime. Or 2, the place was ransacked, meaning whoever committed this crime was in the house, not only looking for something, but then it led them to taking the life of these people. They were looking for something, meaning the cupboards were all open to the kitchen and ransacked looking for something, and other drawers within the living room areas, because you got to remember too, they were investigating the outside windows of the downstairs spare bedroom nobody lived in. They were taking prints and fully doing an investigation of that window. And they did an investigation of the back window of the kitchen. If they knew he walked in the slider and then walked back out of the slider to leave, those windows wouldn't be a part of their and you need to look at it. Look at the pictures. There's literally 5 or 6 of them peeling fingerprints or something off of those windows. So it should give you some clues into, did the guy really come in the back door? Was that his first entrance? Or was he looking for a different way in and that became his entrance? What was moved around in the kitchen and in the living room? And this is coming from someone that knows what to look for within a crime scene, because I've been in them so much. I know where you leave things or what happens to disturb things. And if this crime is what we're led to believe, Hunter Johnson was called over to push open a bedroom door to find Ethan and Xana in a bedroom. If that were the case, he had to have walked through that main living room right in front of their bedroom. And you're telling me there's no blood splatter on that from the upstairs to the downstairs and moving around? You don't have any blood that would have caught his eye that said, oh shit, there's blood everywhere right here. There's blood right here. That's why I don't believe that Ethan's body was blocking the door. I don't believe Hunter Johnson tried to push open the door and found him. I believe there's a weapon or something very prominent to this case that was found in that living room. Right there in the middle of that living room. Whether it be a broken lamp, a golf club, whatever it might be, it's in that living room, and they have an exhibit of that, and it's going to come into play somehow. And it's not going to be a weapon that came from outside the home.
Yeah, and they did take Ethan's golf clubs as evidence. They slapped an evidence sticker on his golf bag and took it as evidence.
Yeah, I just want to air. That was a very powerful little segment you just gave. And I saw an immediate comment right as you started talking about that I just wanted to bring up, because it seems to come up every time we get deep into the early details and accounts of what happened at the 1122 King Road home. And it was a comment about the ISRBG. And so that's the Idaho sliced roast beef. And hold on, let me see if I can go back up to it real quick. I just want to read it to you. Hold on. There it is. It says, the ISRBG guy said a female came in at him with a knife. And I'm not trying to put validity into the ISRGB, but however, I mean, if that's what we're doing now, if we're just putting value into people who have sources and taking their sources at face value, then why not talk about some of these things? Now, the reason I didn't put a lot of validity into the ISRBG is because they were active during the Madeleine McCann case, and they're basically like macabre satire. So I just assumed that it was macabre satire, but that's an interesting comment. And then AR, when you talk about weapons, I always say the two weapons that come to my mind first that would have been involved would be a stun gun or maybe like chloroform. I'm just speculating here, just saying, you know, in my opinion, those would be two things that might be used. And Jeff also said something that there were two comments I want to just push back to you, AR, and have you answer. Jeff said in the comments, he goes, where were the accounts of the kitchen had been ransacked? And then the other thing I'd like you to answer is, you said something about blood dripping from the kitchen, and it could not have been from the second floor. It should have happened in the kitchen. I don't know if I heard you correctly, because I don't remember the blood. I mean, there's definitely pictures where I know that I've seen what I think is blood spatter, but I just didn't know what you were referencing, and I'll just turn it back to you.
All right. Let me answer Jeff H. How do we know the kitchen was torn apart? Okay, for one, everything out of the sink was removed out of the sink and placed onto the actual table. Two, you see in the outside pictures the people working the crime scene in the kitchen with the cabinets all open. They're looking at the outside of the cabinets. They're looking at the ceiling, and many people would come back and say, "Well, that's a blood splatter because there's blood that came from the upstairs bedroom down." And when you lay the floor plans out, that just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. Based on the fact if Maddie and Kaylee were both found in Maddie's room, it doesn't work because the kitchen literally kind of only comes to where the stairwell goes up, and Maddie's bedroom is on the other side of that stairwell, so it doesn't work. But the forensics team was working very diligently in that kitchen. They were in there for a long period of time. Then you also see the photographs from outside of the upstairs living room with the hazmat workers working outside of the bedroom in the living room, right with the good vibes sign, the second good vibes sign right behind them, meaning they were in the living room right outside the hallway that led to Xana's bedroom. Yeah, I've studied these pictures. I know I haven't got out there and I haven't talked about a lot of this, but I mean, the one thing that, I'm a very detail-oriented person. I don't want to give up everything about the series I'm putting out, but this is how detail-oriented I am. Do you guys remember when the officers came up and were talking to Kaylee about the noise complaint, and she gave her ID, and they were taking a picture of the ID, and Hunter was outside with them while all that was happening? You guys remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Do you remember Hunter was sitting on a couch, right?
Yeah,
You remember that couch?
Yeah,
Mhm.
originally, Hunter came to the door, went and got Kaylee, and then he came back out with her, and he sit down on that couch while that officer took a picture of her ID, which I'm still trying to figure out why the officer did that, because the house before they came to the King Road house, it was a group of guys that was having a party, and they didn't take a picture of their IDs, but they only took a picture
Well,
of Kaylee's.
let me show you how detail oriented I am. You ready? When they were doing the whole investigation of the crime scene, where's that couch on the back patio on the day of the murders? Why is there no couch there?
Good question. And why didn't they touch the trash that came out of Kaylee's room? They just set it out. They just set it outside by the back patio.
Which one of those kids that has such a busy life and all the parties going on, especially one that was supposed to be the night before, why would the couch be gone? That's a hangout spot. They sit on that couch. They party outside. They sit on that couch. Why is it gone?
Well,
But the trash is still there.
Yeah.
Right? Where'd the couch go? Who took that?
Well, AR, I think you just sent everyone on the internet down a rabbit hole. We're going to start looking up. I didn't realize the couch wasn't there the day of the crime. I have heard a ton of information about people. Sorry about that noise. I've had a ton of information about people talking about Google Earth and going and looking at photographs of that couch. I've heard people speculate that they've saw blood stains on that couch. I've heard people speculate in alternative theories that couch was used to transport people, and that's what contained the DNA, and some of those more, really wild speculations that we've heard that don't seem so wild anymore now that mainstream media pushes them. But that's interesting, AR. I think you're about to send the whole internet down a rabbit hole looking at that couch. Was it there that
Do you
day?
know what? You want to know what made me realize that couch wasn't there anymore? That's where the photograph of the dropped piece of paper that looked like a note with the little marker of the evidence marker was sitting right where that couch was supposed to be. So instead of a couch, you have the actual piece of paper that many have said was some sort of like diagram or drawing that had an exhibit marker on it, was sitting in the very markers, if you go back and look at the photographs, which I'll have to dig it up again, that's right where that couch was. It's right in the sitting markers of that couch.
Jeff, you're in
Weird,
the chat.
huh?
Yeah, that's really weird. Jeff, you have any insight on this? I mean, I'm going to be doing this as soon as we get off the live stream. I'm going to look at my archives, but I'm going to look at that one picture you referenced so that I can go see it.
Jeff said, Derek Shook is the Fox News digital photographer. I emailed them and he said he would sell the photographs to me for $5,000. And for $5,000, that would include any photos he took during the trial. Anybody want to go half seas?
Robert, you want to go have these with him?
And then Jeff calls.
Say that again.
Jeff calls Hunter zip.
Like
Okay, hold on. Okay. Derek Shook is the Fox News digital photographer. I emailed them, and he said he would sell the photos to me for $5,000. And for $5,000, that would include any photos he took during the trial. Anybody want to go half seas?
I think you're talking to the wrong
that's it's enticing, actually.
And then Jeff says here, I see one photo where the couch is still back there covered in snow.
That's what I was just going to bring up, and so did Texas Ranger. Again, I'm going to have to go look because we know exactly what photo AR is referencing, and Jeff actually sent me a copy of that one too. It's really good to go verify and take a look, you guys, because there's been a lot of talk about the couch in my live chat. It's definitely a very hot subject because we already have a problem with lack of DNA. So the couch has been intertwined into some of these alternative theories, especially when you see so much activity on Linda Lane, you know, in the hours preceding the crime. And you see so much activity on the Banfield in the hours preceding the crime, and they just sandwich the house. And so many theories and speculations have been born from that. So rabbit hole.
And actually, Jeff, it's not on the asphalt. It's in the back of the house. It's right near the exit. It's right actually where the couch was sitting. Because if that couch was in the exact spot it was in the pictures that we see of Kaylee and Hunter talking with the officers, the only way the assailant could have left the house, because I've seen this house while it was still standing. I looked right back from the back of the house down at that exit. He would have had to come out and go straight left to go down the actual walkway of the house past Dylan Morgan's bedroom window. And that might be why they feel as though they had to look at everything down that side of the house, because they felt that could have possibly been his route out. But because if you go out the back door and straight where that couch was, you have to go up an incline to get away. And I know many people would say, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you go commit a crime in that little amount of time and wear yourself out, committing what they say he's done of 4 people, you're not going to go running up an incline at full pace and do it well. You're going to go the easiest way out, which would be the level route, which would be make a straight left turn and go down the walkway past the bedroom. I mean, I scoped all this out before they tore down the house. My wife and I spent a good while there looking from every angle because I wanted to see what I would do if I were the one that perpetrated this crime. Where would I have entered? Where would I have exited? And, you know, people probably don't remember, but I did a whole series on the perpetrator of the house a long time ago, which I'm going to kind of rework with some of the things that we know now and more of the research that I've been able to do. But, I mean, it's, you know, I get people say that couch was there, but I mean, I've gone through many of crime scene photos, and I think you guys even have them in the, you know, in the Discord that we go through that good Nina Kelly put out there where we can go through all those photos.
Yeah, especially the public the letter that the Gonzalez family wrote right after the court hearing, about all the motions, and how they're kind of upset about the alibi being kicked down the road like a can, and also about, you have what we want. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I yeah. It's almost like they just want this guy, already sentenced and already being sent off to death row. And I watched an interview earlier today. It was an older interview by Christy Gonzalez, and she said that she would forgive Brian once he's off the planet.
Yeah, I feel like Bill Thompson actually thought he would have had a confession and a plea bargain by now, in my opinion. I guarantee you, because it doesn't matter if it's a death penalty case or not, the prosecution approaches every person that is being charged with felonies. They approach you right away with plea bargains. And we always had kind of a cardinal rule. We used to discuss it all the time, and anybody that was new that came in, we'd explain it to them. You get 4 shots at a plea bargain. You got your first one that's just kind of here's a throw at you to see if you're willing to even negotiate a plea. The second one gets a little bit better. The third one gets a hellified lot worse. And then the fourth one comes back to the original plea bargain. So we even, we've gotten it down to we know how to negotiate the pleas by how many we're sitting at. When's the next one going to come? And I guarantee the prosecution threw a plea bargain at Brian Kohberger very early in this, and that's why they left it open, uh, where they could take the death penalty off of the table. If you guys remember, Bill Thompson left that a part of the death penalty motion that he filed, that they at any point in time could take that death penalty off of the table if they want to. And that's because if Brian Kohberger accepts a plea bargain, it's not going to be for the death penalty. So they have to be able to remove that.
Now, because I know I heard, I don't know if it was speculation, but I heard that that Massoff wants to file a motion because the prosecution is not turning over evidence, like they want them to. Massoff was supposedly one to write a motion to penalize them by asking them to take the death penalty off the table. But I don't know if that's fact or speculation.
Yeah, they absolutely can. The judge can penalize the prosecution for not turning over evidence in a timely manner if he feels as though they're intentionally holding back evidence or not turning over things that they have. Then absolutely they can take that off. Definitely. And Texas Ranger, I've said that too. I absolutely agree with you. I feel as though the prosecution, whether it be real or not real, they've got something in their pocket they feel like is a boom in this case. I don't know what it is. I couldn't, in my mind, there's so many different things that it could be. I think we all have ideas if we think about a case like this, what booms could be. But I think that's why the prosecution is sitting as lax as they are. I believe that's why they said, hey, we don't need the IGG for trial. We're not even going to bring it in. We don't need, I believe they even at one point said, we don't even need the sheath if we don't, if we don't have to, we're not even going to use that. So they've got something that they feel as though they've got a boom. And I've always said, in my opinion, it's somebody that has spoken and given them, word of mouth or testimony or something that they have as a witness that brought them some closure to what they feel about the case. And we'll see. As we get to trial, it's going to be very interesting to see what does um, the prosecution have that's going to be that boom that's going to be testified to. And Texas Ranger, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking that it's going to be somebody that they feel as though can give a positive ID to Brian Kohberger. That I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, now, uh, I lost my whole train of thought, and here's Jeff. Um, going back to that. What they were talking about. And I really don't think. What do you think about the Brett Payne stating in that last interview or the last court hearing that they lost some stuff along the way? What do you think, AR? Now, what's he talking
Uh,
about? Is it evidence, or is it what is it?
I believe, in my opinion, I think he's referencing them being able to get their hands onto various videos from different points along the roads that they're trying to get pictures of the car or video of the car. And I believe what he's referencing, and don't take this as solid. This is the absolute truth because I don't know. But I think he said he probably got there too late, and those videos had either been tape recorded over, or they no longer had the content that they were looking for the days. So that's what he would be referring to as lost. Maybe evidence. I don't think they lost blood splatter evidence. I don't think they lost the knife sheath. I don't think anything of that at all. I feel as though he's referencing when it comes to the video or the audio.
Yeah, because
My
clearly,
opinion.
yeah, because clearly, when they tore the house down, you could see like chunks of wall that was cut out. And Steve Gonzalez, like made the comment in an interview that he had witnessed FBI going into the house. Yeah, and when they tore the house down, you could see like chunks of wall that was cut out. So did the FBI go in there and cut out those sections of the wall that had like blood splatter on them? And if that's the case, why would the FBI go in there? Why wouldn't the local PD go in there? Uh, Unless the FBI is pondering making this a federal case and not a state case.
I guess real quick I'll answer, and then I'm going to shift it off to both Jeff. It's great to see you up on panel. I haven't got to talk to you in quite a while. It's always a pleasure to have you up. And then,
same here. Same here.
Well, I appreciate that. When it comes to a state and a Fed case, just from my past experience at this very point, this is now a state-ran case, and that's what it's going to be moving forward. The feds are not going to pick up this case in the near future. If they were to ever, I from my experience, believe if they're going to get back involved and pick up charges in this case, it's going to be if others become known or involved in some way that would make it a federal case. Right now, this is going to stay within the state courts, and it's going to stay within, the jurisdiction of Idaho. So.
I something came to me. I just want to go back to the crime scene thing because I know Jeff's going to be getting to what we're talking about with the couch for a minute. AR, there was a point I wanted to make and we kind of trailed off, so I hope I'm not backtracking too much. But when you talk about the crime scene, I think one thing that always puts questions in my mind, and I don't think that there's anyone out there that can answer it, and I'm sure you guys speculate on it too, is I have some photographs of the primary investigator, and she's actually taking fingerprints. She's dusting for fingerprints on Bethany, the top of Bethany's window. And I always thought that was really interesting. We know that Batanti said something about there being exculpatory evidence that Bethany knew. We don't know what that is, but where did Bethany's room get involved? And if there were fingerprints on the top, was that somebody looking for an entry point? Was that somebody, there's a few speculations I have. Was it somebody looking for an entry point? Was that ladder in play in some way? Did somebody enter or exit a window? Because there were those, locks that we all saw, those self-locking doors Let's just say, the sliding glass door wasn't involved. Or, and this is just pure speculation, just thinking of reasons why they would be dusting for fingerprints on Bethany's window. Maybe, and again, pure speculation, the unaliver went around the house and Bethany hid. Maybe he exited through Bethany's window. So just throwing a few things out there when we're talking about the crime scene, that's always perplexed me. Why were there was actual evidence markers on her window, like there was a fingerprint on it or something, and then they were dusting for more fingerprints on the top of the window, so it was probably a fingerprint from the outside. I don't know. So could that be, if we're looking at a crime scene where they're collecting evidence chronologically from the outside going in, then that would make sense if that could be evidence number one or evidence number two, a partial fingerprint or something. I don't know. So anyway, throwing that out there, and then I'll start talking. So
if I could share, I'm wondering if they're going to check everywhere they can on that house, I imagine, right? I mean, if for nothing else, if they probably could predict and know the criticism that they would get as law enforcement in this case, and then all we'd have to say is, "Hey, you didn't ever check the front of the house," or, well, I think there is already that kind of stuff. So, but I mean, it's
I believe there, Jeff. I believe there would be two reasons, and they kind of go exactly with what you're saying in regards to. One, if we have not 100% confirmed an entry point on the day of the crime, they have to investigate any possible entry point to see if they can get any evidence so they don't lose it through the time, moving forward. Now, a second part of that could be if, let's say, Bethany, within her interview with police, and we don't know anything that Bethany said because nothing's ever come out of it, but let's just say during her interview she said, I did hear weird noises at my window, I just didn't know what they were, so I didn't get up to look, or I just ignored them. Well, now they're going to go back to that window and they're going to start seeing what could have possibly made these noises that she heard, because maybe it is somebody trying to get in through this window and then chose a different route. So, I mean, that they have to investigate that. And I learned that from my days of breaking and entering. Even if they knew the exact route I got in, they looked at everything else to see if they could get more of my fingerprints to help their conviction against me, because now they had more evidence against me. You know what I mean? So
maybe Bethany saw somebody out the window with shaved eyebrows, and therefore that's what's exculpatory. Is that what you saw? What, shaved eyebrows? Oh, we got something here. This is interesting. This is very interesting. Hey, do you guys want to see the couch photo that I found? I've been starting to label my photos better so that I can find things. But this you'll find interesting because it covers. There's 3 photos that cover both the things you were talking about. The paper with the evidence marker number 4. So here's what's interesting. So you can see the couch at the back there, but if you look at the investigator, see what she's got in her front pocket there. She's got evidence marker number 4. So here's why I've always pictured that piece of paper being at the front of the house, because she's still got it. She's walking around towards the front. If you look here, this looks like black asphalt, which I was always assuming was at the front of the house. Here's the other photo of it. And the thing is, I can't. No, I think this is the same. I think this is the first photo. They're picking it up. They're putting it about to put it into the
might be
evidence
bag. That's just a different view than what I think I was seeing. But okay.
But I mean, I've looked closely. I mean, I think I can even zoom in. Yeah, I can zoom in. I don't really see anything that I can make out other than scribbles. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. Even if let's see, can I rotate it just to see? Why wouldn't it let me go all the way around?
Oh, this is really good, Jeff.
I mean, I always try and do that because, sometimes you're looking at something upside down and then you're like, oh, that's what it is, once you turn it upside down.
Damn
But
it!
I've
Now I got to go
also
back and erase my video.
it's cool. No, I mean it's you had me thinking though, because I thought maybe the couch that I remember seeing back there was like well after the investigation, but this you can clearly see they're still putting evidence markers and the couch is there. Let me show you this other. I've got some like drone footage, not footage, but stills from I guess a drone. So here's one where you can see like the couch, at the back there, over there. And I believe, I mean, I could find the clip of Kaylee at the back. I believe it's the same couch. We probably, if we're good investigators, we want to make sure. Yes, it was a. Wait, there, I've got a better picture.
But
of that
that's
of
in a
couch.
different place. Jeff, that couch has been moved though, hasn't it? Can you put
Well,
that
but
back up?
that-
Just because I haven't seen that
Wait.
picture. I just haven't seen
Yeah,
that
let me-
picture.
Let me show. There's one that's even better. It shows you like you get a sense of the exact location of it. Okay, this one. Let me just zoom in.
I mean, you're actually really helping me. I appreciate it.
Sure. But if it's not because remember that thing where the cop came and talked to Kaylee, that was what date? That was quite a while before this happened, right? Not quite a while, but it wasn't like a month. I think it was more
Yeah,
than
but these
that.
are college. These college kids, they're too lazy to take out their trash. But if you zoom in on that, Jeff, real quick, kind of look at the way the couch is sitting right there. It's obviously been moved because the police would have walked up and that couch was actually sitting directly in front of where the
Right.
cops were standing. So it has been moved in this picture. It's still there, and I appreciate you for showing me this because that corrects my error, which obviously I don't want to put out something that's wrong. But
And I'm not jumping on here
I mean-
to like take any enjoyment out of
no.
finding you an
No,
error. I
this
just
is-
when you talked about it, I remembered. It was going against my recollection, and you just had me thinking. I like had to check because I've been wrong on stuff. So I'm thinking, is my memory correct?
No, this really
I'm
helps me. I appreciate it. This isn't it. I don't appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate this because this betters my thinking now in regards to something I'm trying to put out and get people to think about. So this definitely helps. But think of where that's sitting, what we're looking at right now. So this is a good time to actually even look at this and think about this. The slider door is legitimately kind of where the corner of the house is straight down. So for him to get to his car, which would be parked up back behind the house, they state, he would have to run through that couch to get up that hill or take the time to go around it if he was to run up the hill. That's why I keep saying he went left out that door and ran right by Dylan's window. When I was
Wait, here's an
looking
even
at the
better
house,
shot. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going, but I'll give you a better shot. That it's kind of going along with what you're describing. This angle, I think, is even better to show, like the space you'd have to run around the couch. This was actually the better.
Well,
one.
I mean,
should've just stuck with this
even
one.
more so than getting around that couch, because if you're trying to get out of that house in a hurry, because we are talking about a time frame where they say this was done in a short time frame. I'm not going to say just seconds or minutes because it's actually 7 minutes is a substantial amount of time in and out of a house. I've done it numerous times myself, not taking lives, but in and out. But yeah, this is an actual great. So they're saying when he came out that back door, if he was parked up the hill is literally if you run where that couch is, following the diagonal to the corner of your screen, that's where that back parking lot would be. Okay. If you come out that back door and run right underneath the actual top porch and you follow straight down that line, that is the only level running space to get to a vehicle. And that also goes directly to where the tire tracks are.
Yeah, I always imagine that he parked the vehicle up in. I don't know if you can you see my mouse. Is that up in this area?
Yeah.
I think even
And
the second off this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's the direct left out of the back sliding door. You go directly left. You run right along the wall that has the kitchen window, and it has Dylan's window, and it's running right below the upstairs patio off of Kaylee and Maddie's room. You run right underneath that, and it goes directly to that side road, which is most likely the one they say he drove down anyway, or up, whichever way they said he did that. And literally, that's where they were looking at tire tracks and different things. But that is the only level spot that if you had just committed a crime, going up and down stairs and exerting every bit of energy that you had into the committing of a quadruple homicide, that your legs would not be wobbly, shaky, tired running down. Yeah, I just don't see you running up a slick hill with leaves and brush and trees and trying to get up to a car when you could just directly go left and go down a level running space.
Well, one thing
That's
I'm
just
thinking
me.
of too, though, is that this side of the house right here has no windows. So, like this parking along this street here, I think would be wise in that nobody would see your car parked there because there's no windows. Only you have back windows facing directly back, and but here would be like the place I would think you would park. There was also that second officer, and I'm trying to find the damn Kaylee body cam video, but the second officer had made mention that it's like I think he said something like, "Hey, there's no steps up to this balcony up here." That's interesting. He said, but then I think he did also say, "But I guess the steps go out that way." So I'm thinking you come out the slider, you do go right past Dylan's window, and then you go up some, like, I think there's some bricks or something, or a retaining wall type of thing, and you're up to the street. You're in your car. Now, this is just my theory, but you're putting something in the trunk after you've stripped. You're slamming the trunk. That's heard on the Linda Lane camera at 4:21:01. 18 seconds exactly later, you hear this car speeding off, I think heading down here, making a left turn, maybe almost losing control on this turn, and then revving up and heading towards King Road. I have a friend, and I'm not sure if I can verify it. I don't know if they're correct on it, but they had said something that they heard that one of the trash cans were knocked over. I don't know if that means he came really quickly, wherever the cans were that night, jumped the curb. I don't even like to say that because it might not be true. So I don't want to say it. But when I listen to the Linda Lane footage, I try to imagine at 4:21:19 when you hear that car speeding away. I close my eyes and I try to imagine. Okay, it's making the left. It's losing control. He stops for a second maybe and says, "Oh, geez, that would have been bad. I do not want to get stuck here." There's a big old yellow curb. Where is it? Somewhere like over here, where there's a picture of a girl sitting on it. I think holding a cross. And the skid marks, which I still am not completely convinced or sure whether they're not they're the same skid marks that is seen in that video with Xana in the Pittsburgh Steelers shirt. They have a very similar kind of shape and angle, and I'm not absolutely sure what date that video of Xana was taken either. So I don't know. Plus, I also don't know how long tire tread skid marks last. And would still be around. So the fact that they were measuring them makes me at least think that they thought they were important enough to measure and check out. But they very well could be from some other vehicle. But I mean, if you listen to that, and that's the thing that was very compelling to me. When I heard that sound, I thought, "Oh, that sounds like a car door." And I was like, this is right around the time where you hear the car speeding off. It's like, wait, why is it taking 18 seconds after you close your car door to speed off? It's like if this truly is somebody that's just done something this awful, you close the door. I mean, I don't think you're going to look through your phone to put on some music or whatever. But 18 seconds to come from the trunk to the front of the, get in the car, start the car, and go, made a little more sense. Again, it's just my theory, just my speculation, and it just seems the times that stick in my mind are Xana TikToking at 4:12. I think the The light bulb camera picks up a thud at 4:17, and then there's a car speeding off at 4:21 and 19 seconds. That just, it seems like, okay, so when somebody comes at me and says, I think these murders happened at 2 a.m., it's like, you know what, you got to get me to reconcile those times first before you start to try and convince me of that, because I'm really, my mind, I guess, is just stuck on, but prior to that, 4:07 a.m., you see the car, which I think is the fifth pass past the Linda Lane camera. 4:07 a.m., that car is coming by for the fifth time, and it's traveling faster than all the other times. You can measure the other passes, assuming it's the same car, which I think it is. So it's traveling faster. It's heading in the direction of the back of the house at 4:07. And then you just kind of, it seems like that, it's, to me, that's the time. So sometime after 4:07, maybe say 4:09, he got in the house, did everything he did, left at 4:21. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm try to keep an open mind, and I like to listen to all viewpoints, but it seems to be my theory that is stuck in my head for quite a while, and
Jeff, pardon me for 1 minute, and this is completely off topic, and it's kind of, and I don't mean to cut you off and interrupt
Sure.
what you're talking about, but it's something important to me. We have somebody actually live streaming our live on their channel that is bad-mouthing creators on this channel, including myself. And I'm speaking directly to that person. And I'm not going to say a name because, I think everybody on this panel and in this chat that knows me, I keep myself above board and I stay respectful, and I don't get out of the integrity line of things, but I'm speaking directly to this person. And if you're live streaming this, you know exactly who I'm talking to. I tried to get on to your live, and you blocked me after calling out anybody that wants to directly speak to you. You blocked me and would not let me on your live. You have ran your mouth time and time again. You are a liar. You are a backstabber. And you are not welcome within a very gracious community of good people. So you can live stream this all you want. Use my name in any negative way you want. This is the last time I ever reference you. You were nothing to me. You will always be nothing to me, and you're not a part of this community. So I say my farewells to you. And Jeff, I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't like to be like this. I don't like to be like this, but you know what? I'm not somebody that gets pushed around. I'm not one that will not express how I feel, and I'm so angry right now. But I'm going to continue on a path with you good people, and we're going to get back to what we're doing. Everybody ignore that person. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Sorry. I had to say what I had to say, and I hope you guys can all.
Now I'm dying to know who it is, but I know we'd probably better to not say. But
since she's doing
Texas Ranger, it's not you. It's not you.
Since she's doing it to us, brother, can I pull up her live stream right now?
No,
I don't care, man.
You know what? If somebody's doing something that's not cool, then let them be the only one to do something not cool.
I went there. Yeah, I went there.
If they want to be an audience member of yours, that's an honor.
I went there a minute ago, and that rant video I did last night, she's sitting there bashing me, and so are her mods.
Yeah, people have the choice to be nice or not, and sometimes they don't choose to be nice. I choose to be nice all the time, and you know what? I have a peace that comes with that. And even my enemies, there's a good book that says love your enemies. It actually works. It really does. Hey, by the way, I found the Kaylee video if you want to see this, Robert, it's in backstage. I can turn the volume down. I just got it playing. Just to give you a sense, you were right about the couch being in a different position.
Yeah, I'm doing something in the background too.
Guys, I'm sorry I spoke like that. It's nobody within the actual chat here or anybody that's within the community talking. Texas Ranger, I have a lot of respect for you. I have a lot of respect for everybody in our chat and in our community. It's just this individual that's put herself out there, and she's wreaked havoc on many of places. And I'm just not going to give it any more of my time or my effort, because I've tried to get on and be man to man and get up there and speak with this individual, and all they do is cower and block me and move, whatever.
I think
Sorry,
if
Swamp.
my experience with playing guitar on a stage, sometimes, well, not that we ever have this happen too much, but in the audience you have fans, and in the audience you have people that say, "You suck. We're here to see the band that plays after you." So it's going to happen. You're not everybody's.
Yeah,
As Harsh Reality even said about me when I put out that Grub Truck video, very praising of the video and on the work that I did. I appreciate that, Harsh. But then he did say, but I got a lot of emails saying this Jeff H person, he's not everyone's cup of tea. And it's like, did you really have to include that part? I mean, it's like nice things about Jeff, and then he's not everyone's cup of tea. It's like, okay. You gotta kind of play to your base as well, so I understand that too.
It's called placating, right? Placating.
Yeah. Yep. He's like, he doesn't want anybody saying, is he praising Jeff H? He's the enemy. He's one of those respectful guilters. What? How could you do that? But hey, this is kind of interesting. This camera angle. Oh, did I lose it? This camera angle kind of shows an angle of the path out the door. There you go.
Yeah, see, straight down.
And see, these are like steps here to go right to the car.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is there my mouse there? Yeah.
That's where I parked. When I visited the area, that's where I parked our car.
Oh, you went there? Oh, cool.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we parked right there where I said you would run right down that walkway. We parked right at the end of that walkway.
So is this? I mean,
we parked up
stairs?
back too, but
is this stairs and then
steps.
up to a little bit of a grassy area to the
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
it is.
The thing that I think about often too with the glass door, the sliding glass door. At first I had this theory because I have the same sliding glass door on my house, and whoever installed it installed the lock upside down. So there's a little claw that comes out when you lock it. My claw was facing, let me get this right, was facing down, which meant when you lock it and you think your door is locked, all you have to do is lift up on the whole door, make it do a little bit of a wheelie, on the back wheels, and then you lift it up like 2 inches and it slides right open. So I was, for the longest time, I was looking for footage to prove what position that little lever is locked or unlocked, because now mine's fixed. So now when you push the lever down, it's locked. For the first 2 years in this house, we had the lever would go up to be locked, and lo and behold, we didn't know it was not really locked very well at all. Anybody could have just slid it right open. Which was a theory. That was a theory I had. It's like that's how he got in, but that I don't really think that's true. I think their lock actually is correct.
I can walk up to any slider door and be in it within 30 seconds. It doesn't matter how you have it locked. I could be in a slider door in 30 seconds.
Now, what's your method? Because I know now that once I fixed it and then I was showing my wife, I said, look, you can't get in. And then I shook it and it's like still open. It's like, crap. She's like, oh yeah, real good job, Jeff. But what I ended up doing is I just had to like make adjustments to it so that there's no space for it to go upward at all. But what is the method? Or I don't know, maybe Robert doesn't want his channel to be like, hey, learn how to break into houses with AR.
I'll tell you one day off camera on how literally it is. No matter how you lock a slider door, I could be in it within 30 seconds. It's just like French doors. You can't lock French doors to a point. Yeah, well, I mean, I was skilled at breaking and entering. I hate to say that. I was very good at it. So, certain types of doors you just can't reinforce enough that I can't get into it. and that's scary to think about. And that's why I'm not going to share it over. I can only imagine
Right,
the
right.
100 people that watch the show tonight. We're going to have 87 of them out breaking into people's sliders tomorrow.
Right, right. I'm wondering if from the parking lot, if someone with binoculars could go in the parking lot and be able to see whether the door is locked or not. Whether or would you have to?
That I don't know.
Looking at this angle, it's a little hard because it looks like a fisheye lens, so it's a little distorted. But trying to get a sense of, like, if they parked kind of deeper into that back parking lot with binoculars, could you say that door is unlocked and make a decision, to go do what nefarious thing you planned to do, or maybe didn't plan, maybe just felt like doing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you would be able to see it, from a distance. But
because you can see it would
Kiki,
be
you're
right
awfully
here. Here's
quiet.
the
And I think
handle.
Robert fell asleep. What's going on here, Jeff?
Well, I just wanted to say one thing about the slider door.
I'm working on something in the background real quick.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see what you're working on. I want to say one thing about the slider door. The only thing I've ever seen that stops a slider door from being able to be broken into is a bar, like a bar in the track. And they sell like special security bars because it must be something about the designing of the mechanism. Now, I have in the house where I live, there is a big, it's not a sliding door, but the bigger doors now, they'll have like a latch you pull up, and it's like an actual handle with an internal mechanism, but I don't know. And then I would like to ask you guys, if somebody, from your experience, and since we're talking about the subject, if somebody puts a security bar in the track of the slider, I mean, there's no way to open it then, right? It's short of breaking the door, right? That would work for protecting the slider.
Yeah,
right?
they're absolutely. I'm a slider door, no matter how you secure it. The slider door goes completely inwards, not on the track when I enter the slider door. I take it off the track inwards of the actual home.
Oh, I see. You actually lift it off the bottom and then shove the bottom up and into the house, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah. I take the door completely
yeah.
off the track. Yeah. So
Wow,
Now, I know with mine
if the
has
door
no play to lift up.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
Have you checked out my door,
Yeah, it
AR?
does.
You don't need to
No,
break
but
in, man.
I
Just
can
knock on the
bet
door.
you-
You're welcome here.
I could bet you every dollar I got I could be in your back slider door no matter how you secure it in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Check this out. I
mean,
see,
it's only
this is a kind of
it's one tool and your whole door moves. It ain't hard. It ain't hard.
right.
Well,
This is what is it?
Service announcement.
That's why
Yeah.
uh
This little
I tell
lever right
people,
here
don't-
makes
don't
me
get-
think. Don't challenge AR to break into
Don't-
your house. You will
get
lose.
sliding glass doors. Don't get sliding glass doors. Yeah, no, I can. And the sad thing is, it's also any window that opens from right to left or left to right that's on a track. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what you do you got to put bars on the outside of your windows to keep me out. Otherwise, I'm in. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I hate to broadcast it that way, but people need to understand when you go to protect your home, you literally have to do your homework on what's the best type of way that protects your home. And anything that has a track that something would slide on is not the best way to protect your home, because you have to remember something. It's not whether the door or the window slides on that track and you can stop it from moving and minimize the play on that track of the door or the window. Remember, the track can be moved as well. Just think about that. The track moves. So what would keep me out?
Right.
Does that
You know,
make
looking
sense
at
to
this
you?
lever,
I mean, if you look
looking
at
at
that
this,
slider door,
uh-huh.
where would you think the weak part of that door is? The weakest part of that door, what do you think it is?
The
Well, I think
hinge.
coming off the track, right? Or out of the, because it's on a
Just
track with
just
wheels at the
look at the
bottom, but
door
up at the
right
top,
there.
it's. Let me go back.
Well, watch it. Go back to where the door is closed. He's standing on the inside door before he opens the door. Well, right there. Stop it. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, zoom back out a little bit. Zoom back
Oh
out a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. Sorry,
Show the entire door. Show the entire door.
sorry.
What
This
is the
rewind is
weakest
like.
part of that door?
There we go.
Where's the weak point of that door?
But between the two pieces of
Can anybody?
glass.
The dead center of it, right? Where you see those two posts that would connect, the one being the
Uh-huh.
inside sliding door and the
This
out
here.
being the outer part, right? So one of them doesn't move. The left one doesn't move.
Right.
It stays
Yeah, this one
stable at
doesn't
all
move.
times, meaning the right one is the sliding door. So what do I have to do? Where do I attack that door that you need to
Yeah,
protect?
you're right.
Where would be the best way for me to move that door and get in no matter what I needed to do? I attack that center pole in between the inner and the outer. What do? You slide something in there and you pull towards you, pushing the other side. And what happens to that door? It opens inwards to the house. I don't need to attack where the lock is. I don't need to attack the bottom or top of the door. I
This
go
thing
right in
here.
the center. I slide it in, and boom, I'm in. I just pull right towards me, and all the momentum just pushes that right into your home. So your little pole in the bottom track, your little hooky lever in the center, it doesn't work.
But didn't they say
Right
with this
there.
case there was
You
no
see
sign
it.
of
It's easy.
breaking in, right? So assuming that because they said, and if we can believe that there
They
was
said
no
that it
sign of
seemed like
breaking in, then I'm thinking it's was left open, left unlocked, and he was able to just slide it open. And
I
it'd be
feel as though
interesting to
the
know the
door.
people that
I
live
mean,
there.
unfortunately,
Uh-huh.
I feel as though the door was unlocked. I think that they came home from a night out. I believe that they took the dog out to the bathroom. They were eating their food. They were talking. They were all tired. They all ventured their way, and it happens.
Yeah, there was part of me that wondered if they didn't maybe walk the dog and head down the way to see if they could see Jack's house, to see if his lights were on, wondering why he wasn't answering the phone. And then maybe it was during that I well, that was earlier on that I thought the killer maybe came in and then was in the house waiting, when they came
There's
in.
just so many scenarios that doesn't take a break in. There's so many scenarios that doesn't take a break in. Unfortunately, you're talking about a college home with numerous people that live within it, that somebody maybe thought somebody else was shutting the. I mean, God almighty, my wife caught me the other day, walking in. I had taken the dogs to go to the bathroom. I came in, I didn't even shut the door. I just left the door wide open. And she comes walking in, 10 minutes later, like, what the hell's wrong with you, dude? Oh, my bad. Oh, shit, I didn't even think about it. I'm sorry. Well, that could have been possibly the same thing. You never know. You never know.
Right. But now your dog would take the head off of anybody that tried to come in, right? Didn't you have a pit bull? Is that what you've got?
I have 3. Yeah, I got
Yeah, there
3.
you go.
I don't know.
So if they get if they
don't know
get
if
past
they
the
would take
first
the
one,
head
they're
off
not
of
getting
you, but
past
they-
the other two.
They're not
Yeah,
getting
you're definitely not getting past my. Yeah, my
Yeah.
little one, Xander. You're not getting past him. You're not getting past him. He knows everything happening around him, and he's gonna let me know for sure. And he's Xander. What do you weigh now? 95 pounds. Yeah, you're
Wow.
getting there. You're growing a little bit.
Yeah, my dog's around 75.
Then Bayou's
and I know
80.
how heavy he is. If I had a badass dog like yours, I would have to get
Yeah,
the dog a tattoo. Do
Aspen's
you have a
100.
tattoo for?
What are you, 135? No, I don't know. I've never gotten it. No
AR's
tattoos.
not
No.
into tattoos, no.
But
Do they even do
Aspen's
that?
140 pounds. No. Tattoos on dogs. Not on
That's a
mine.
new-
My wife would kill me. She
It's a new
hates me for
business
mine.
proper.
I wanted to say, Jeff, just because
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna just say to Jeff, the reason we're joking is because AR used to be a tattoo artist.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So if any dog would have one, it would definitely be AR's.
And he's got a couple too.
What?
Sorry to cut you.
Yeah, a couple. I've got one. I've got one that goes from my neckline to the bottom of my feet. So, I have an appointment next week. I don't know if Jan's going to let me keep it, but I'm going to get my throat tattooed next week. I don't know if she's going to let me do it.
Ouch.
We'll see. We'll see if she lets
That's
me
got to
do
be
it.
painful.
But, yeah.
Ouch.
Well,
I'm
the
too
inside the
much of a
eyelids is
chicken.
painful.
Oh, yow.
I got the inside of my eyelids done. That was kind of painful, but
Dang.
we'll see.
Wait, no, I gotta know. I have an idea what's on the inside of your eyelids, but will you tell us?
I was just looking for that 712 camera. Do we see it here? No, I don't. Let me see. Back up a little bit.
Jeff, you don't have
Xander with the tattoo of AR on his arm.
What'd you say, Kiki?
I think we got that feedback again, Robert. I was gonna, I
Yeah,
want to ask.
it's because we're being streamed on another channel.
No, I don't think it should become if somebody's microphone that they're talking into also picking up the sound of, because like I've got headphones on, so you shouldn't be able to hear anything.
I have headphones on.
I'm going to go ahead and end this
Echo.
live stream. I'm going to need your help with something AR behind the scenes. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do this. So if you want to stick around after the stream AR, I'm going to need your help with something.
All right. Do you want to do it here, or you want to call me?
I'll call you.
Okay. Hey Jeff, I'm gonna email you my phone number too, in case
Cool,
you ever want to
yeah.
chat.
It's safe with me. It won't end up on any
I'm
bathroom
not worried
walls.
about it. What are you talking about? I've already put it on all the bathroom walls.
Well, that's what I meant to say. I already have it because I saw it on the bathroom wall. Most of them say for a good time call. This one says for a good guy call.
All right. Everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to AR, Kiki, and Jeff for being on panel.
Thank you.
We've had a total of 140 people watching, which is a milestone for this channel. But everyone have a good night, and I'll be calling you as soon as the stream ends, AR, okay?
All right. Talk to you in a minute.
All right.
Kiki, Jeff, it was great talking to you. Love everybody in the chat. Good night.
Back at you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.